I missed this, or there's some more
Okay.
information, you could always record.
Change it or edit, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
No problem at all.
Now, should I pull that stuff out in case, for reference later on, or just later on, I can reach it?
I think at the end, or maybe if you said, you talked about when you were a kid and the Germans come to your village and you want to show something, you could say it first and then show it at the end.
Okay.
My dad said he wants to make a copy of everything.
Yeah, because you see what happened,
like that.
I got all documentation, I got
Mhm.
copies in there. But
Yeah.
I got also actual documentation.
Oh, wow.
And I have everything,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Those look like passports. Are those passports?
Passports.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
This is the German, we're in concentration camp, and then,
yeah.
then they send us to the farm from there.
Yeah, yeah,
You see my fathers and mothers, I got Soviet Union passports from father and mother,
yeah.
they're actual
Yes,
passports.
wow.
All, when we were on immigration in Germany, we belonged to, Ukrainian camp, and we were, well, anyhow. My father's activity, he was in YMCA,
Yeah.
he joined the YMCA, he was very active. That's American YMCA, actually worldwide, right, YMCA.
So how are you feeling?
Good.
Excited to finally get the story out?
Huh?
Excited to finally get the story out, right?
Yeah.
That'd be good. So I'll sit across, but I'm thinking, so if you look here, what does that look like?
Good.
Looking here. Okay. Like that. Okay, we're recording there, recording here. And then I start audio, and then we'll just do a little test.
Okay.
So we'll just go through, and then we're good to go. I had to put my computer over here because it makes so much noise on the microphone.
Huh.
So that's why I have, you might see me go back and forth.
Put my documents around me as a backup.
Yeah, that's good. If you would like, I could give you a small table. Maybe,
Yeah, that's,
you could use, what we use
that'd
this.
be all right, okay.
Yeah. There used to
That's
be
all
a
right,
table
because it's
here.
easier for you. Well, you're going to have only half of me anyhow, right there. Yeah, you capturing up to here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
This one has a little bit more of the legs, and this
oh,
one's a little bit closer.
Okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, it's okay.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Okay. Let's do this. Okay.
I told my son that I thought, I was not sure if you're going to, somebody else will come interview. I told him
Oh.
somebody else come interview, so
Oh.
he might come over. He said, yeah, he liked
He's
it.
interested.
Maybe it's good, he'll learn my history too,
Yeah.
better a little bit.
Yeah, of course. We could pull up a chair. So, I'll talk and get this set up. But when I went to school, I had the privilege to interview a number of people. I learned a lot from my professors and teachers, and one thing that I was so gracious for was I got to interview the James River Association, which is an association that works on preserving the water, making sure it's clean, and making sure that when there's floods and stuff, that we have enough protection. The city doesn't get flooded, and So I interviewed a lot of interesting people, and one person that your story kind of reminds me of was this woman who was a black woman, and at the time kind of had to run away from all the racism and all the people, and for her the James River was kind of like this peace and this calm. So it's been a nice road. This is probably the most serious interview, but at any point if you feel you want to liven up, 'cause
Okay.
I know it'd be serious.
Yeah,
thing.
no problem.
But yeah, so that's a little bit about what I've done. I'd love to show you some things later on, if you like. Some other interviews that I've done. But today we focus on Walter.
Okay.
Alright, so the cameras are set. I'd like to just test the audio, make sure I hear you alright. So go ahead and talk.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Walter Melnychenko.
Okay, that's perfect. Now,
Let me know somehow so that you know that you're recording now or not yet.
oh yeah, I just set up all the recording.
So that you know exactly at what time, so that I don't just blubber anything, so that at least save time and focusing doesn't extract something else,
Yeah,
so that would make sense,
of course.
so that you know that whenever at that moment I know that you are recording it perfectly, so that I don't spoil it.
Yeah. Now, the only thing that I
Maybe I'll put it away, yeah.
Oh, no, that's fine. Actually, I was gonna, so I paused this here. The only thing that, do you feel comfortable with the two mattresses, or do you want me to take one of these seats out? It seems that
Maybe lower.
it's a little bit high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And pillow in the back, yeah. Maybe this in the back so that I can see a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, much better.
My friend,
Much
okay.
better, yeah.
Yeah, I
see,
want you to be
because before,
comfortable.
yeah, that's
I
more
want you to be
comfortable.
much-
Yes, that's
great.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Okay. Now I'll just bring over. Just if you want it, it's
Oh,
not
no,
it's a
that-
shop.
I have no problem.
Okay, I'll put it right.
I see lots of people, I don't know why, but I'm not that type of a habit.
Yeah.
All they have on TV all the time, and everybody even professors. I'm watching the MIT courses at night.
Yeah.
And they drink, they give the lecture, and every time they go and sipping it.
Mhm.
Is that normal or?
Oh no, I don't know.
I never do that.
It's very interesting.
I drink like when I eat breakfast, then sometime I'm thirsty, I go take it. That's it.
Yeah.
If I drink maybe 3-4 times a day, that's about all.
Maybe some people aren't as in shape, so they get so thirsty, or maybe sometimes the food we eat is maybe very sugary and salty,
Yeah.
so we always need more water, more. Okay. Well, this is rolling and it looks good. This is rolling and it looks good. And the audio is working, so that sounds good. Could you, I know you won't talk very loud, but let's see. Let's say a phrase, it might be silly. I love mowing the lawn, but can you say it as loud as you think you're going to talk today?
Okay.
I just want to hear what it sounds like.
I love mowing the lawn.
Okay. I might turn up. this
I
audio.
like turn up.
And then your name?
My name is Walter Melnychenko.
Alright, thank you. I just want to make sure that things are loud enough,
Okay.
so I have to turn up the gain and all that. But it seems that we're all ready to go. Before we dive into like entire stories, which I'd love to capture today. I'd like to make a short version, kind of like a summary of what your father experienced, what you experienced, and what is happening today.
You see, just before so happened, material in his summaries, I have my father's summary
Oh.
in English language.
Oh, okay.
He summary, and if I just read it, or his best way, that tells you everything. The whole very short. Let me show you. Sometimes just by reading it, it would be better, because he did it in Boston. He reported, they wanted to find out in Congress or something like that. So his biography. So let's see. It would be very beneficial, because it's that I show in, but it's already summarized. Let's see. I prepare myself, all right, but
Oh no.
I have to be careful. Okay, here it is. This is my personal, but I don't think you want personal either. In the United States, what I did and everything, just a short history, how I progressed in here, I got that too.
Yeah.
But in here, oh. Wait a minute. What's that? One sheet. And you know what? You see, last night I prepared everything. This would be. Yeah. Yeah, you're not recording yet, no?
No, no.
No, not yet.
Alright. But I'm gonna just step over here, make sure
She.
this.
Is she? I hope. I was careless. You know what?
Yes.
I thought I had his very story summarized in English language very well. This is my book. Don't tell me I didn't bring it. That's okay. It would be really.
I'd like to. This won't be in the
You know,
shot.
I didn't bring the sheet with me. Last night I was so careful preparing everything. Everything's in different groups, so that whatever you need, I could have retrieved.
I'm sure it will turn up.
It's on one page. Where did I put it? Let's see. Did not tell me I left it at home someplace.
I'd like to put some things on here, just so it's a little bit. Is it okay?
Okay.
Here?
All right. See, this is my very short story when I came to the United States.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Is this letter something that you wrote as soon as you got?
What is that?
Oh, sorry. You wrote this as soon as you got.
Oh, this is just my interview for just a little biography when I was trying to apply for application.
Oh, like your visa.
For IBM.
Oh.
Like for job.
Oh, yeah.
But I told him all my experiences and just where I work and all of this,
Yeah.
when I was in the United States. That's all my activities of United States where I'm advancing. But we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have to have.
I'll put these here. It's amazing how intact all of this is,
Oh, yeah. But you know what? That one sheet, how could it be? And I was already laying down and I putting everything together. And his statement supposed to be right in his page. One page or 2 pages of his that was summarize everything. I wanted to definitely. This is, but then my sister was very nice, and then my father, 1 page. and I swear I put it in here. I say, I have a, devil's advocate. Every time something, you're not recording yet, are you?
No, not recording.
No. Now, you know what? I left it home.
I can always run over if you want to.
Can I run over?
No, if you want me to, or.
But you won't be able to find it where it is.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I can run. I don't believe it.
Well, how about this? Before we could head over, but I wanted to ask.
Okay, we'll leave it. That's the main summary, you know. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we could head over, but I want to ask first. So.
Okay.
For my segment, the shorter, I was thinking I'd like to record 2 or 3 versions of you saying, my name is blah, 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 and I am a blah, 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 and this is my story. Something kind of like those, like NBC, you know, those kinds of things. And then we might finish recording, just, you know, we could talk in between. And then I would ask, I am telling this story because, why? And I know you already have an idea of why it's important for people now to know, right? Mm-hmm. History repeats itself, sadly. Mm-hmm. Things that have happened in your father's era in the 1900s, and then in your era from the, you know, basically the entire 1900s to now, and then now that you're out and it's still happening. So like why it's important, history repeats itself. So then you would be saying like, I am telling the story because. And then we'll record that. We could always, you know, brief like we're doing now. And then I would be interested to hear 2 points, which are your father's story and then your story. And then the third point, how it relates to what's happening today. Mm-hmm. And it could be a very short summary. It could be you know, in your own words. In fact, we could get the summary and read that, but it also could be like in 1917 there was a revolution and this is what happened. Mm-hmm. My father was thrown into collective farming. That's where
he have a great detail exactly. That piece of document is a great detail. I couldn't even put, you know, but that's so summarized so well. I have to find a sheet.
Okay, so then it would start like that.
We can stop, you know, we can whatever we do when we come to that point. Okay, maybe we can, you know, record it or read it separately whenever it's needed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm glad I read yesterday, so I'm refreshed. I can still repeat, you know, but that's exactly. So this is purpose, okay, really our history and really at this moment as it is, I like to relay, you know, in defense of Ukraine, what America is helping us right now and all of this. I just wanted to portray myself, you know, why I'm here, you know, how appreciative I am, you know, to glorify America, how sorry I am, what happened to our parents. You know, that flee. And still, it repeats itself. History repeats itself. Mm-hmm. And how careless world is not to pay attention to follow it through more perfectly, to have the world more synchronized in the unity. And so we almost achieved that through United Nations and everything, but later on it backfired. And the reason it was backfired because of the carelessness of some people, and also selfishness for the other. And but basically, that's what I'm trying to portray. But whenever you're ready, you know.
Yeah, that's a perfect perfect thing to say, and I think if there's any moment where you want to re-say it, you could always go back.
Or if you wanted to, so that I can stop it, so that I don't. Okay, maybe I'll do something with the hand. Let's see how do I. Maybe I move my hand, but then you know when to stop.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Okay, don't record.
Yeah, like that.
Because when I do this, this minute you stop, then we proceed this way. It won't be interruption and it will be smoother. He says, and I don't want to say, ah, ah, ah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Summary of that, yeah, and that's really what I like to talk about. When I dive into, more your story and what you've experienced personally, I like to know about poetry. I like to know about farming, bread,
Mm-hmm.
and then about songs, which are from Ukraine, but also maybe some of the propaganda and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I'll
I
save
know,
it. I don't
I
want
know all the Soviet. I will sing you about Stalin, Joseph Stalin glorifying. I even brought a harmonica with me.
Yeah.
I can play you a tune too.
I wrote on page 22, I made a note saying that, because we don't have a title, right? For this is your story. For my segment, I was thinking we want a title for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what you wrote. Every good Ukrainian knows this poem. You're referring to a poem by Taras
Shevchenko.
Yeah. Who said, repent, be a kind man, or a trouble will find you. Soon the chains will fall from suppressed people, judgment will come and will be spoken. And then it continues. And so you wrote,
Схаменіться, будьте люди, бо лихо вам буде. Незабаром розкуються заковані люди. Настане суд, заговорять Дніпро і гори. And many poems I know by heart.
yeah.
But translation, a little bit, yeah.
And you wrote, every good Ukrainian knows this poem and the history of Bogdan
Khmelnytsky is a leader that he, at that time, Polish people were occupying Ukraine, not Russians. But they were changing. One time Russians got us a queen and everything. Then later on Poland come in and Latvia. Okay, so every time some different power comes in. But then Bogdan Khmelnytsky, he organized everybody and kicked the butt of the Poles. He threw out severely, wiped out the villages, moved. They became very rich, all Ukrainian land and everything else. And they were very nasty also. They were very bad to Ukrainian people and so on. Just like Germans and Russians were doing. And the Polish people, same thing. He wiped them out, but he didn't want to go. He could have even conquered Poland at that time, but he didn't want it. He just stopped at the border and he said, but then later on he joined with the Russians. And since Bogdan Khmelnytsky, once he joined the Russians, Russian took over. Came in with the Russian troops in Ukraine, 300 up to now. History repeated itself. They were dominating and trying to dissimulate Ukraine.
Yeah. So I was hoping we'll go through this and maybe at some point you might mention that, because I like somehow the title to be Crisis in Ukraine, History Repeating Itself. Something
Yes.
like that,
Yes,
And
I
you
like
might
to
say
relate
it-
that. That's my actually main goal, but for me is to relate that, not for my personal,
Yeah.
glory or anything else, but for Ukrainian nation. That's why I'm wearing the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So I'm just going to press record on these items here.
Okay.
Um,
And I am very sentimental, tell you the truth.
yeah.
I even sometimes, even today, I was in the corridor, was preparing myself to say, and I burst into the tears in the corridor because I thought of things.
Yeah. Well, it would be good to finally get the story. I was telling my dad earlier, this is the first time, right, that we got the story out. I
Okay,
think it's so important,
thank you.
to be able to share this with other people, because especially in this day and age, when we forget history, again, it repeats itself, and people will just continue to let it happen. It'll just continue to be, chaos and people, oppression and things like that. It always happens because people don't read. They don't look back. Oh, what about Walter's story? What did he go through? Because if we forget your story, then we go and make the same mistakes. Always. So, everything here is recorded. I just...
This is Walter, my son. Well,
Oh.
good thing he didn't interrupt us now.
Yeah, no, it's good we just started up. Hey! Come on in. Yeah, sure.
So late, I had
watermelons and stuff that you like?
Or he's going to interview. I
Oh,
didn't
you're going to
realize
the
it.
interview.
See, he studies for this.
Oh,
I made it very.
I thought he was saying some guy's coming over. I was like, well, who's coming over? He couldn't tell me. I'm like, all right.
No, what I'd like to do,
This is a good idea though.
yeah, what I'd like to do is, do you want some water? Or
No, I'm good. I probably drink actually.
What I'd like to do is record the story in 2 versions, and I was just explaining that we'll go through one version, and that segment will be 5 to 10 minutes long. It's something that I'd like to share with some people that do work
Yeah.
in media,
Absolutely.
see if there's any bites and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but then also record the full length with all your documents and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do that basically like a demo tape, promo tape,
Yeah, basically.
and send it out.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
good summary of everything,
What would be good, I was thinking though, is
Yeah, because just that material laying in there, it's shame,
yeah.
If I kick the bucket, whenever I kick the bucket, everything what is going to someplace probably will go end up in the garbage.
Well, the spin on it though is that the United States Americans really don't know the struggles of the Ukrainian people, or for the whole other world for that matter. I mean, the different nationalities. White is white, right? So they don't take into consideration that there's different religious people out there. There's different ethnicities. Within the Caucasian race is what's like grouped into one person. So to get it out there that because now I mean just seeing him talk to like these guys I bring over and tell the story like wow they don't teach that stuff in school. They didn't know that even Ukraine and Russia is different. You know what I'm
Some
saying?
people take it for granted. That's the one problem. Some people live here and take it for granted. And they really, actually, they don't do anything good for the country itself because they're ignoring, because they should know better than that. And sometimes actually education in schools to start with. That's where I start. They are not really, in some schools they do, but that's where I start. But main thing, it starts at home, and when parents are talking about and learning, well,
Well, I
but
think it'd be a
it's a
good
calamity of
publicity
all
story.
nationalities in here, and that's a great plus because it still survive, and we are all in one unity. Maybe there's some back and forth. That's why I look negative at that. They should not do that. They should, if they come in and this is a free country and everything, respect each other. That's the main goal. Okay, and lots of people don't do that. They go in and you're a Guinea, you're a Squad, you're a Polak, you're black, and this. That should stop. They should have respect to each other. Italians, Spaniards, that's unfortunately there is a little bit tensions going on, but.
But what's about diversity and acceptance of others? You see Russians and Ukrainians, right? What's the big beef between Russians and Ukrainians? I mean, essentially everybody thinks they're the same. I mean, in America they think Russia and Ukraine is the same people, right?
But
And
history.
they grow up and they say, well, what are you? You Russian? I said, no, Ukrainian. I said, well, same thing, isn't it? And they said, no, damn, I don't know, that's not the same thing, man. And it helps get that out. So
The history itself repeats it. You see, history in 988, Ukraine was baptized. Russia didn't even exist, and it wasn't Ukraine at that time. It was called Rus, but it wasn't called Russia. And it was very strong country, Rus, and they had nice kings and so on. But later on, they expanded a little bit and start moving into the Mongolian territory where Moscow is and so on. And so really, the route is not Moscow, route is Kiev. Later on, because they went dominated by a greater power like by Russia, by Poland, they got fed up with that. And they said, wait a minute, the Rus and they got Russian, okay, we're going to change the Ukraine under new name. I think this is my interpretation. I really don't know 100% exactly how it came about, even though they know, but they changed the name for good reasoning for it, so that they can be independent from anybody else.
That's pretty cool. How long you been doing? You've been doing media and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's been quite a long time. I'm just
Really?
gonna move these a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Um,
No, go ahead, do your thing. I don't
when
want
we
to.
when we get
Yeah.
when we get to it, I think we could lift it up. But for now, I
Okay.
might just.
Oh, all
put it
right.
down.
Yeah, and I put this over.
You can put it on top of that table right there.
Yeah, I can put, here's my
Yeah, I'll
boat.
probably bug out later on because I was thinking like there's gonna be some media, you know.
See, what I
was
missed-
like, well,
Next
be careful what-
next step. Next
Well, I
step.
just said, well, let's be careful with, you know. I want to make sure, you know what I'm saying. What-
Anything-
Next thing you know, Putin's after this.
Yeah, no. So the I'll record our segment first. It'd be great if you stay.
No.
Okay, we'll start.
Yeah, and we'll do the quiet on set. This microphone here will catch everything in front.
Okay.
Just this one here.
So,
So
don't forget this. Whenever we're recording, so you give me a good signal so that we
Would you
are.
speak
And
naturally
then we
then?
know I lay the hand that.
Don't lean towards the mic or anything. He's got everything set up so it's.
I know, but so that I don't, when I want to stop, so that we don't do anything foolish, or so that record it smoothly. When I lay it, means we'll be ready to shut it off, so that in another episode or something like that, or something might do wrong or something.
you could also with this segment, it's not as important to do that. But later on, when we do full stories, if you feel like you're about to mess up,
Oh,
I
okay,
would. You could go down like this.
okay. Yeah.
And then you talk, right? You might pause.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, just
okay.
looking for it. Because
Okay,
it'd be good
that's
for me to
perfect.
transition.
Yeah,
If you know it, I won't say anything. I'll
Oh.
just
all right,
give you your space.
okay.
Um,
Well, we can start.
okay. So the first thing, like we said, I like to record you saying, "My name is, I am a,
Mhm.
and this is my story."
Okay.
Go ahead.
Should I say anything the time for Ukrainian or anything else? No, don't say that.
You could say that piece first. We'll record it 3 times, make sure it's fluid, and then we could add something.
Or okay, yeah. Well, okay. Ready? Okay. My name is Walter Melnychenko.
Let's do that again, maybe a little bit louder, and then my name is Walter, and I am a, like maybe you want to say I'm a former Ukrainian citizen or something like that.
An American.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could say that, and then continuing on, and this is my story. So my name is Zach Forbes. I'm a Malaysian citizen,
Okay.
and I'm recording you today.
I'm a Ukrainian descent, you know, or actually, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, said.
Sure, that or Ukrainian American, anything.
Okay. Now recording? My name is Walter Melnychenko. I am American and Ukrainian. Came to this United States of great country in 1949 after World War II.
Okay, I like that. At the end of it, it's kind of like those YouTube videos. My name is, and then this is my story, and then I'll cut.
Okay.
So, this is the second cut.
Yeah, it'd be like.
That's
My
okay.
name is Walter Melnychenko,
One more time.
and I am Ukrainian descent.
Oh, sorry. Start from the beginning again.
Okay.
There's just
okay.
something.
So just talk to him, man. Don't
Okay.
worry about it.
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. I know. I'm stopping.
But
you
wait a
starting.
minute, I have to say, you're not recording yet. No, not this.
No.
Oh,
So
wait a
you'll
minute.
just say my name is Walter,
Yeah.
and I am a Ukrainian American,
Okay, and
and this is my
should
story.
I? Oh, okay. Mainly this is my story. Okay.
Yeah, you could, and then you just end there.
Okay.
Okay, take one. Go ahead.
My name is Walter Melnychenko. I am American and Ukrainian. I would like to tell you my story, which happened to my parents and to myself during the World War II and after. Thank you.
That's good. Okay.
No?
Yeah.
No, that was perfect. If you want to do that whole rundown one more time, just so we have options,
Okay.
we go through it again.
Then
And then
you
the end
can
of it-
erase it. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And
Try just saying, look, I am Walter Melnychenko. I'm a Ukrainian American, and this is my story.
Okay.
That's it. Simple like that.
Okay.
you could do, yeah, you can make it simple like that.
Okay.
And then you could just stare at me. I know I don't give a lot of cues like go talk.
Okay,
You just talk whenever, and I might just stare at you.
okay. My name is Walter Melnychenko. I am American Ukrainian descent, and this is my story.
Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect. So the next, you touched on this, but I'm telling this story because why? So why does your story, your father's story, and what's happening, why is that important? About history repeating itself, things like that. So I'll let you. Probably you could open up by saying.
Should I start that I already summarized in my book or not yet?
Just say why you want to tell the story. What's important
Well,
about
that's
you
why
telling
I'm
the
trying to,
story?
you know, I'm so,
That's it. What's important?
oh,
Why
okay.
people should know your
Okay,
story.
no, that's okay.
That's it.
Yeah, just like a sentence.
That's-
So I want
that's
you to say
important,
this
yeah.
is important to guys.
The important story to okay.
Okay, ready?
Right now, I really, through all this life that I'm right now at 88 years old, a little bit ashamed of myself that I didn't tell my story and history of my family, what we went through. It's many tears went through, even myself, my parents, and other people, Ukrainian descent, what they lived through, their history. And right now, the history repeats itself. And it just, I cannot sit still and not tell anybody about our history because it's like forgotten. I'm glad that some of the Americans realize that, and even into this day helping Ukrainian people to fight, say demons that they were for centuries ignoring, destroying nations, going in. It's unbelievable speed for greatness and become the world leaders, and yet many people ignore, especially small countries. They just fall into their hands and they gobble just like animals gobble poorer, smaller animal. It's just unbelievable. People have to read and understand.
Okay, that was good. You explained everything. You're just gonna press this here. So let it reset. Same here. They're both recording. Audio still recording.
So what would be the next step?
I like that one. My whole segment might be a lot of repetition.
Okay.
I promise I won't stop you
That's
as
okay,
much
yeah.
as the other one. Could you share again why you're telling the story, and if there are any quicker things you could think of, you could say it. If not, you could say something similar to what you just said, but just another
So quicker.
variation, just so I could
Oh,
spice
okay.
it in. So I'm telling this story because
Yes. I'm telling this story because at this age,
I'll stop. The other thing, your son is here, but don't worry about him.
okay, I will okay.
I'm your audience. Everyone
Okay.
that wants to hear your story.
Okay, I'm
right
talking
here.
directly with you. Okay,
But you're doing a great job.
okay.
Right.
I'm trying to tell the story. The reason is because with today's what's happening, many people don't understand what's going on in the whole world. We are United States, great country, built itself, united with many nationalities, with like a harmony of different people. Yes, there are some little problems and so on, but yet there are many countries that become very great, but yet they're still continuing to be greater, and with the great massacres of people, of nations, trying to destroy even different nationalities for their graciousness. And that is why I want to explain to some reason, just to compare a country like Ukraine, which at this moment fighting for their life, and finally they said we got fed up with this. We definitely have. No other country even try to do that. Every time they do help. And finally, at least it's great that great country like America, United States, and Britain realize, even though with their great power at this moment, that they can do something to fight the devil, which is right now. One and the other grew up in this universe at this moment to a greatness. And yet, with the lies, unbelievable lies, cheating, try to convince people with false statements, it's just unbelievable. And yet some people, well, let's put it this way, pardon me for the language, but dumb enough to accept their lies and follow their steps. Now, that is not excusable. And that's what I'm saying. Please understand, people, that starting from the history, plain farmers that lived in peace, villagers, thousands in Ukraine lived. They had, every person had their own garden. They had their self-sufficient. They lived in harmony among themselves with a culture, enjoying the nature, blue sky, yellow fields of wheat, tradition of younger people joining together evenings, singing national songs. I have the great poets which describe their national history, their pain of the history, what happened when they got dominated, and awakening their people's mind, which even to this moment, like a poet in Ukraine, Taras Shevchenko, wrote a book summarizing in his great book named Kobzar, almost whole history. Matter of fact, that one man himself, Taras Shevchenko, saved Ukraine even for this moment, because otherwise, without him, Ukraine probably fall into the domination greatly, and people even wouldn't know what they are and who they are. But he revived.
We'll go step by step. I know you don't have the paper, but if you could summarize as you can from your memory your father's story. You can start with my father's name was, right?
Mm-hmm.
When, the year, I believe 1917, 1918 would be a good starting place.
Mm-hmm. You see, I have to be careful on this so they don't tell a false, you know, that's the thing. I remember, I think he born in 1917 and my mother was 1919, I think he was born. Let's see. That's why I should have read that. Maybe I should go and get that sheet.
Oh, we could always go back.
Yeah.
I think just to get
Yeah.
the format of it. But
Let's see what is.
I was born October 5th in the year 1904.
1904.
By the old calendar and by the new calendar.
Okay, I read that. Yeah. Well, I just say 1904. I was born 1904. You were born.
And so the summaries that I have that I would like about your father's story and about your story, very quickly, right? We're not going to any much detail. Is father's name, around the time,
Okay.
and then what was happening historically. I think the revolutions
Yes.
would be a good place to start. The summary of the slavery and stuff that
Yes.
happened.
Oh.
Dangers and how he survived, or tried to survive. is
Oh
a
yeah,
better
I
saying.
wish I had that sheet. I tell you one thing. It's just by reading that sheet right there, everything so summarized that it's just unbelievable. I feel like
But you said you're having a conversation, that's all.
why?
Yeah, we could.
Just like you guys were just talking.
We'll go back and we'll get it. We'll record
Okay.
it after.
Yeah, just have,
All right.
just have a conversation with
Okay.
them, tell them
So my father was born in 1904.
1904.
1904. My mother was born in 1902. Okay. I have my mother and father too, right? Or just father?
You know,
my father.
I think it might be like
Because he's the one that really, wrote his history. Okay. Okay. See? My father told me all about his family and his story and what they lived through. And my father was born in 2004 in Ukraine.
We'll pause for a second. We'll start with my father was born, and then 1904.
Oh, what did they say?
2004.
Okay,
Beautiful intro. Beautiful intro.
Erase.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
2004.
Great
Wait a
intro.
minute, 2004, that's right. Okay. My father was born in 2004.
1904.
Okay, erase.
It's all right. He's gonna get all that.
Yeah, don't you worry.
1904.
1904.
Wow. You see, that's where I got
Maybe
the
they-
problem.
Then it's one of their kids.
Okay.
They maybe say my father in his name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My-
my father.
My father, by the name Alex Melnychenko, was born in 1904 in small village, very small village in Ukraine. He married to my mother, Alexandra Dudchenko, also from the same village, and they started their life there. At that time, whole village was working, everybody by themselves, with from their garden. Everybody was preparing food on their own for winter. They have no time for anything. Even with children, they have to sometimes problem because they have to give it to other relatives to watch them because it's just constantly. They have to work 24 hours a day actually just to survive through the winter. They have the gardens, beautiful orchards, fields. Everything was just like a harmony. Every village self-supporting. And if they have to go a little bit further and buy some clothing or shoes or anything else that requires for equipment, they go to the big city, which is quite a way, 300 kilometers or so, and they trade some of their food, some of the butter, some cheese, whatever their product, and they buy things for themselves in the village. And that's the way they did it for years and years. Then suddenly, revolution come. And people from the big cities, of course, controlling everything. And we had our great neighbors, like at that time, Great Russia tried interfere into the Ukraine and try to dominate. Well, Ukraine tried to fight at that time in 2017, liberate themselves so that they can establish themselves as a free nation, as Ukraine. But Russians at that time sort of were suppressing it. They were suppressing it greatly. And before, just as communism started spreading into the Ukraine full force, number one, they were barefoot, naked and hungry. Soldiers invaded Ukraine, plundering, robbing people, stealing, raping. It's just exactly what's happening even right now at this 2000 year. Exactly what's happening, and it's documented. That's exactly what my father told me. It's just unbelievable. They go in from house to house searching for food. They go in with the bayonets, with the little notches on the end of the bayonets, which has an opening, and they pierce through the ground. And if somebody buried their wheat in there, they were looking if there is a trace of it so that they can dig it out. Well, you know what happened to those people that they find hiding it from them? They wound up in Siberia. Anybody that was a little bit wealthy, they call them kurkul. They wound up in Siberia. There are a few turncoats, of course, that every nation has that. but mainly people were fighting, and like in my father's village, people sort of, few people that objected, they arrested, they overpowered them, let's put it this way. But the next village, people fought them. But once they fought them, Russians sent a greater power. They burned out everybody in there. It's exactly what's happening right now in Ukraine. It's a repeat. Unfortunately, they did overcome Ukraine, and communism started growing into the great power during the Lenin, and then into the Stalin's era, which Stalin started to, instead of calling Ukraine Russia, no, they sort of could not overpower 100% Ukrainian people, because we did since 1917, when Ukrainians tried to free themselves, they split even among themselves. Some of them did join, but yet they were patriotic enough to fight Russia and said, no, we are Ukrainians. So in 1917, once they lost the freedom as Ukrainians, they joined Soviet Union and became Ukrainians, USSR, Ukrainian Soviet Socialistic Republic, a great country. And those years were great years. They have the collective farms everywhere. They collected from, put all of the people to labor up in those collector farms. And of course they created the documents. Once they have in power, they can tell you, sure, you be Ukrainian, but Moscow controls every little detail. Every little detail, it goes through Moscow. Everybody report. I don't know how the heck they're doing it, but yet that's what they did. They definitely did that. And then, once Joseph Stalin wanted more wheat, Ukraine produced it, and they took everything. And yet in 1933, finally, they took so much from people that people couldn't afford to give it, so they started hiding it a little bit for themselves. They came by force again in 1933 and created a famine, and all villagers were dying out from hunger. Approximately at this moment, the people gathering, approximately 7 million Ukrainians perished in between 1931 and 1933. It was a great famine for Ukraine. Yet they could not fight because they have no arms, no nothing. Those people that trade became Ukrainian Soviet Socialistic Republic, lived greatly. But yet, with the cities, they pumped all areas that were in the cities, they put up all educated people, all churches they closed. They massacred all of the priests. They sent all of the intelligentsia from Ukraine, the poets and so on, to the Siberia. They filled those and digging the channels someplace. Unbelievable. After that, it's sort of everything is hushed. They produce the documents that you cannot leave from village to the city. I have a passport right here in front of me that says, if you leave the village without authorization and paperwork to the city, it's a criminal offense. Well, it so happened during that time, my father in the village, he finished 7th grade and he had a little bit education, okay, 7th grade. But to work to collective farm, because they took everybody to collective farms, and anybody objected, out they go. They disappeared. People not there anymore. Well, he and his buddy, he said, well, to mom, to his wife, this is before I was born, of course, I will go with my friend on the train to Azerbaijan, into city of Baku, where they dig for oil, and we're going to make some money in there. At least we can make a living for family. So they left there. They came, as soon as they start working first week, digging ditches around the oil wells that they are digging them. So they were digging for already several weeks or months, digging for that oil. Suddenly, a week later when they were there, the oil burst open, and a fountain of hot oil was pumping out, blew the tower out, and almost boiling like fuels were coming up from there. All the firemen were standing just ready because in any time it could have ignited. The earth was shaking, and my father's buddy said, "You know what, Alex? Let's get the hell out from here because this whole place will cave in pretty soon, you know." So they left back to the village. But once they got there to the village, he got onto the blacklist. So once he got on the blacklist, and he didn't want to join the farm labor that they have, they call his kolhosp. He came on the blacklist. And so happened that our neighbor, my mother's and father's neighbor across the street, he was an invalid. But he was friendly enough to warn my mother. She said, "Tell your husband by tomorrow they made a decision to arrest your husband because he left, he doesn't want to cooperate with us, so on." So my father that night left with agreement with my mother that he's going to go and later on he'll sponsor her back. Wherever he goes, he'll let her know. And he left. He found the closest station, a railroad station that was not too far from the village. He got in, he boarded the train, and he wound up to be in the city where his mother, his sister was living. Somehow he got in touch with them, and they sort of sheltered him for that. And during that time, they also went through the same problem, and they escaped illegally from the village to the city. And so happened, they had documents blank from the village that they fill out that they have authorization to leave to the city. And under that pretense they were able, nobody touched them. So they did the same thing. They made a stamp with a hammer and sickle from the red beet.
Actually, it's a good place to stop for a second.
Okay.
Because you're going deep into the detail. I think we could take a little pause.
Okay.
I liked the scenery you put in the beginning, how Ukraine was. Suddenly, something happened. I like to start record again, and then you've already said a lot of good pieces, but I'd like you to say, like, after the revolution, this is what happened. Later on, when I was growing up, this is what happened. And probably then you could talk about World War II, the Germans, and how Ukraine, I feel like they're like that kid at school that's always bullied, right? So no matter who came to Ukraine, they always took advantage.
Right. Yes.
So I think what we're going to start with
Okay.
is...
So I switched from father. Okay. So really, all right now.
Just don't go into so much detail. Just right now, he's wanting just an overview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're doing
So
great.
start.
I'm gonna take off.
Well,
I'm gonna take off. You
Okay.
guys
Volodya.
Oh,
do his thing, okay?
all right. Yeah.
Volodya, that for a lawnmower the thing come. I put it in already. Correct one.
Does it work?
No, I did. I'm just putting it in the gasket right now.
Make sure you get that on camera too, okay?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Let me-
Listen, I'll leave the front door open.
Okay. Okay, Volodya.
I'll help you in a second.
I'm not a great speaker.
No, you're doing a
Just
great job.
overview. Don't get too deep
Yeah.
into it.
No, you're doing great.
Well, you can
extra-
cut out later on pieces. That's why you can
Yeah, no,
match
it's
it.
good. It's perfect. Really?
Yeah, I give you permission. I give you permission to do anything you want with it.
Yeah, it's
Don't
good.
worry, I edit things out all the time. Let me do this. Let's see. Who's your mom and dad?
Oh, they went out to finish a few things. I don't know if you picked it up today, but so the water pipe exploded,
Yeah.
all that happened, and then shortly after we were digging, my dad hit the gas line.
Oh, get out of here, man.
Oh.
Did he? I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, the fire truck came.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty bad. So
So,
they're just dealing with other issues. I think now they're getting supplies for the garage.
really?
Yeah, the garage, like, we tried to fix the door and then it just fell apart. You should have been, yeah, you should have been there for that. The spring, so there was termite damage on the bottom.
You want to put it down there and show you something?
There's termite damage on one of the entryways
Yeah.
of the garage door. And so when we wound up the spring and got everything set, and we pushed the button, it kind of just caved in.
Rip the wood
Ripped
out.
out, yeah.
Really?
You could see all the termite damage. You could punch a hole with your fist.
I didn't know you guys
It
put it
was
all that.
awful.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's where they're going now.
Okay. Well, good luck. Like I said, I mean,
Yeah, he said a lot of great. I think he said a lot of great things in the beginning, but he asked me not to record. So I'm trying to trace back. All right, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, you're good. Enjoy the hot sun. Oh, okay. All right, I'll see you. It's good. Good little break. I think it's also good. I love your son, but he kept making some
He
noise
talks-
behind me.
He talk a lot.
Yeah. Good son, good son. He cares.
I
he
found
cares
that
a
my
lot.
father's
Oh,
statement.
you did? Oh,
Yes,
perfect.
Yes.
So,
She got too much, yeah.
if you want, you could, you can read from that.
I can read it for that's really whatever I told you. I think that will tell you everything in great detail, summarized.
Yeah, does it? I like what you said. It's like a story. Part 1, part 2, part 3. In the beginning, everything was beautiful, and then suddenly, revolution, and then Russians, and slavery and stuff, and then at the end, you're left in chaos, and then you could pick up from your story and how it's the same.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was bad, the Russians, but then the Germans came, and then World War II, and then it got worse, and then we left for America.
Yeah.
Now, today, what's
Okay.
happening?
But the way I did it at first, maybe if I repeat this, I say, first of all, my name is Walter. I'm American, Ukrainian descent.
Oh, you don't have to say that.
Yeah,
I think we got that.
Oh yeah, but once I have that, then I would like to tell my story. But before I do that, just a short summary, and I could read it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna.
This is he summarizes beautiful because he took lots of time on this.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is part of the true history.
Mhm. Okay. For me, it's always better to record someone.
This is perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna just pause this. This is continuing on after Walter Jr. left. Okay. it's gonna be stopped as well because my my camera battery is getting low, so I have to charge the other battery.
Oh, okay.
We might have to periodically do that just to get some things moving. But you're doing a great job.
I hope so.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not a great speaker.
No, you're doing a great job. I want to turn this fan on. I want to hear if it makes any noise. I think that's okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. I gotta reset this for a moment.
What is your qualification?
So I have actually a couple of degrees, but one of them is in audio and video production,
Oh.
which is like creating this stuff, but also music. I'm
Oh.
sure I told you I'm going to the
You
the army
play, you
band.
play instruments?
Yeah, I play the trumpet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I play harmonica.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
June 27th, I'm gonna be leaving
So,
for
yeah.
South Korea. Go to the
So
army.
what kind of instrument you said you have?
I have the trumpet.
Oh, trumpet.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'll show you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're a musician.
Yeah, I'm a musician. That's my main
Wow.
qualification. And I would play for you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the trumpet right there.
Beautiful. My granddaughter in state of Washington, she plays that.
You can hold it. I'll just take this out because it has my
Oh,
slide
good.
and stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got one just like that. She's learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Good.
Yeah.
I think music is a great
It
expression.
is. It is.
All right. So now your sun's out, and you can be more relaxed.
Okay.
I think even me, if I had my dad or my brother or something.
Oh no, he didn't bother me.
Oh, you're good.
No,
Okay.
no, he didn't bother me at all.
All right. So, if you would like, right now, everything is recording now, and you could say your name before I start my story. I like to share about my
Oh,
father, and you can read that if you want.
Or just like from beginning.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
would like, you could.
My
say
name was Walter Melnychenko, as I said, and I like to share
my story.
my story.
But before I do, I want to read
Okay.
my father's story.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. You can start with your glasses on if you want.
No, that's
You don't
okay.
have to.
Okay. My name is Walter Melnychenko. I would like to tell you my story of my life. And before I do that, I'd like to very brief story of my father, which he summarized me and gave to me when he was alive. Statement of Alex Melnychenko at 267 Washington Avenue, Chelsea, Massachusetts. That's where we lived at that time. I was born in farmer's family October 5th, 1904, at the village of Onikiivka, at the present time being situated in the district of Kirovograd, Ukraine. During the revolution against the Russian Empire, I was but a young student who did not yet fully grasp the political meaning of events that took place at that time. But I saw and heard how happy my parents and other people were when the independence of Ukraine was proclaimed. Established the Ukrainian National Republic January 22nd, 1918. When things were explained to us, this happened was also shared by their fellow students and me. And when we were taught in our nation language, hand off, the same we used at home. And then the Russian became another subject of instructions. In 1920, a detachment of Russian Bolsheviks army occupied our village under command of Commander Muravyov. The soldiers took away from farmers everything: bread, cattle, hogs, vehicles, horses. Peasants are beaten when resisting, and part of them were arrested. Many women and girls were raped. My father was beaten with a gun button, where he died a month later. There was a large village, Zunka, next to our village, where people kept arms for defense. When the detachment of Bolshevik soldiers arrived there and required bread, cattle, horses, and clothes, the population disarmed the soldiers. After that skirmish, another detachment of Bolshevik cavalry came to that village, but the people barricaded themselves with upturned plate arrows and carts, shooting from behind the corners, and destroyed the detachments. Thereupon, Communist Muravyov ordered the army to open cannon fire at the village, Luzhansk, from the armed train, and the village was demolished with sword and fire. Communist rule was introduced in Ukraine, and looting of farms became usual thing. In consequences of which farm came in 1921 and 1922, as in addition to authorization to export careless to the protection center of Russia. Such a legislation, the escaped starvation tanks of feed supplied by the American ARA were also had a kitchen from hungry villages where they received food. Thanks God and the Americans for saving our lives.
Yeah, beautiful summary.
Yeah, that's why I put it away.
Yeah, that's
At least you can manipulate with whatever that
Yeah.
this or that other one.
yeah. I could always show some pictures, as you talk. I could show so people could have a visual
Yeah.
of what you're saying. Would you transition from your father's story? So start with, you said suddenly there's a revolution. You could say because of the Russians, Ukraine was, in your words, maybe it was devastated, it was destroyed, flipped upside down because of them. And then you say when I was growing up, I was around the time where
Glorious days of communism.
yeah.
Yes, remember.
Yeah, and I think if you do quotations, people know that you're not being serious,
Yeah.
But then I think right now we could start with recording a transition.
Okay. Why not before you see? I finished with my father. One more item. It's very important though. Since father left already, okay. Since father left into the city, okay, and started establishing himself, okay. So, he got in touch with his mother, which told him that when he left, they kicked her. They had 2 raids on their house. One communist party came over and were looking for the wheat in their house. They couldn't find anything.
No, it is a good. It is.
You see, because that's exactly what happened. That's exactly to my family.
I think that's a good specific to your family and all that.
And then when I was born in the city, okay, that was a glorious day for me. I did not know anything about. We had a radio playing all the time in the house. Matter of fact, every household had a radio, and there was not even volume. The news was playing day and night, and every household speakers, propaganda, Soviet music about Joseph Stalin, greatness, on every corner of the streets, on the main streets. They had their loudspeakers blasting the news and so on, and especially when large squares where they have movies and so on, and people were gathering, listening, where there was no speaker, they're listening to the greatest of propaganda that was constantly bombarded from Moscow.
All right, that was I like that a lot. Could we do one take where? Let me just start this.
Did you record that, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Everything's always
I
recorded.
didn't know that.
Yeah. I'd like you to start. I think the story about the mother and Glen City I already recorded,
Yes.
so we can use it. But what I would like right now is what was Russia? What was Ukraine like after Russia kind of took over when your father was there, and then when I was born, right? When you were born, this is what Ukraine was already like. And then you could talk about the loudspeakers and all that. Transitioning to the Germans and then World War II, all
okay.
that. Yeah. So
Okay.
you could start with the ending of your father's story. Not so much in detail of your father's story, but more of historically how was Ukraine.
Should I tell my father somehow secretly got my mother into town or no?
I think we'll
Just
use
ignore.
that later on.
Okay. Just tell him, just since I was small, when I was, as far as I remember, in the city where my father escaped, that's where I was born.
And you could say Ukraine, maybe this exact word, Ukraine after the revolution
Yeah.
and Lenin and all these things, it was like this.
Yes.
And then when I was born,
Right.
this is
Okay.
what it was.
My story as far as I remember when I was born. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think.
So I was born in 1933. I should tell them again, right?
You could say that, yeah. And I'd like you to say Ukraine was like this, like these words. Ukraine was devastated after the 1917 revolution, the Russian Revolution. You know, kind of taking over, putting us in collective farming and really just taking advantage of the Ukraine people.
Okay.
Which transitions to-
I already said it. No.
Oh, you did. I think just as
That's already now. They already, but now they, once that in 1932 hunger and so on. Okay, once they overpower, that villages there was no struggle anymore. Everybody had to harmonize. I have to. It's just really that's already. I already said that. They massacred people. So now I can say, since once communists took under control of Ukraine, I was born then. Well,
I think even though you've touched it, you've said it already.
Yeah.
What you just said, I think, is easier. Remember, because people don't know your story,
Yeah.
so it's going to be easier to follow along and be interested in what's happening in the world. So if you could say what you just said, even though you've already said it before,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll let you go, so everything's recording, and you could mention after the 1917, 1918, Ukraine was devastated. There was all these things,
Right.
which transition.
Fell into the hands of Russian and Moscow domination.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where I was born.
And then you're still born into communism.
And the kind of communism regime.
Where everyone has to work
Yes.
together, forced labor.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good. Go ahead. Everything's recording.
Okay. So, after the 1917 revolution, once Moscow and Russia took over the whole Ukraine, then everything started to be like 100% operation. Beautiful. All propaganda was in motion, especially in the cities. Everybody had the speakers. Music was playing pro-Russian songs, hero songs. But meanwhile, they were still watching these villages very careful so that some of the Ukrainians don't backfire at them. So documentation they produced in Moscow produced the passports for everyone. And that passport, I have one in here in my hand, which states that you cannot leave the village because it's a criminal offense if you leave without that passport and telling the authorities what you do. So all villagers had to work in the collective farms in there and obey the law. And anybody out of line, they are gone. That's all that there is to it. But otherwise, it's a paradise in the world, Soviet Union. Actually, during this Soviet Union period, I was born in 1933. Volodymyr Melnychenko. That's me. I remember playing. My father already somehow secretly sponsored my mother to city, and I was born at the time, and I had two sisters at the time. One 2 years older and one 10 years older than me. They told me their stories also, but they could not believe that how well I could remember my stories so in the detail. First thing I remember the most furthest I could remember when I was just a small child, playing outside in the sand outside of our window, outside of the house. The window was open and Russian propaganda radio was singing the songs, all kind, about Joseph Stalin, about the warriors. Завтра война, сколыхнется страна, от Штата до Владивостока, как один человек, весь советский народ станет дальше и дальше станет. All of this, that's propaganda, constantly brainwashing. And as I was progressing, they always on the Far East songs about how something about the China songs, how they battle and so on. And Красное море, черный пароход, я сяду, поеду на Дальний Восток, на Дальнем Востоке, там пушки гремлять, а белые солдаты там мертвые лежат, and so on, and so on. And all of this, I remember, they brainwash you. Well, anyhow, they sent me to school, and tell you the truth, well, it was tough. I don't remember too much about the school, first and second grade, don't remember. But once I have a second, third grade, I went, but then finally I stopped going to school because Germans occupied Ukraine. And they supposed to tell to Ukrainians, really, they liberated Ukraine in a way, in a sense. Some of the Ukrainians welcomed them. Oh, they said in the villages, oh, thanks God, they liberated us. But that liberation was not too long. Once I was in the fourth grade already in Ukraine, learning. One time I could misspell the river Dnieper. to my teacher. So she made me write on the blackboard. I had to fill the whole blackboard, Dnepr. Class left already, but I have to fill out that so that I know how to spell in Ukrainian Dnepr. And we have to, of course, learn how to multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, and so all multiplications by heart and things like that. We had a very strict teaching during the German occupation. But one time, I came to school and the teacher says, "Children, you better go home immediately because Russian front is moving closely and the city will be occupied by the Russians." And everybody went home, and sure enough, I go in, and so happened. During the Bolshevik era, my father worked himself up to the chief accountant as in the kitchen and so on, under false pretense. Of course, I didn't tell the story about what happened to him before. He was on a blacklist even in the city because they sent him to the village. This is during my memories, to the village to obtain the documents because his bosses falsified and wanted a fake million rubles because they were stealing money from the outfit. And my father, as a chief accountant, supposed to sign off for that, and he said I couldn't sign that. So they found out he had the false papers, and therefore they were threatening him. The name of this boss was Shaman. He had 5 brothers. One of them was a KGB agent in Dnepropetrovsk. He has a KGB brother, but one time later on, there were 5 of them, very big hunches operating. So anyhow, my father went during the just before the Germans occupied, brought us to my grandmother's house in Kirovograd. He obtained in that village where he was paper and returned back. But when he returned, all his authorities were gone because the Germans occupied the city. And he was sitting in the basement for 3 days one time. Actually, he went to the village away, so he didn't want to escape to the Russia. And he stood behind, and later on returned back to the house for 3 days. Then finally he got tired sitting in the basement because artillery was bombarding our city. He went outside, and sure enough, a group of German soldiers with machine guns, minesweepers walking through the streets. Any movement, anything, it will be a hell. And they just passed his house into the city, and that's the way they dominated the city. People before that were looting the cities, all of the stores, all of the warehouse where my father was in charge in the way of, in the restaurant that he was accounted for. And so German took a full control over that. After a while, my father, they asked, he didn't belong to the party, and he was excused from the, I have a piece of passport, a document, but father didn't belong to, because he had a certificate disabled because he was disabled. He almost died one time, and they gave him so he could not go to the service. He was not service, and that's what saved his life to start with. So he showed that to Germans, and they took him. They made him a bank director in the Ukrainian bank under supervision of German officer named a civilian, he had a brown uniform. Some very educated man by the name Schrupp. And Mr. Schrupp, we moved into this big house in the bank. And I remember those days. Of course, I was going to school at the time. And we had a garden in the back of the house. And most importantly, I remember there was lots of tobacco growing in there. And my father, and I collecting those dry leaves from tobacco, making cigarettes for my dad. And we had tomatoes and so on, and had a pig in there. So we were self-supporting at that time. But meanwhile, one time I'm coming back from the school, oh boy, my friend says, what's happening in the park that across the street? We go in and see lots of people gathering. We see a guy hanging with a big sign. I was stealing German things. And they said, well, they hang him. He broke loose from and they capture him again, hang him anyhow, with the telephone wires. They hang him with the telephone wires. And then they tried to hang some more people, but our authorities in the city complained about, so they probably killed those guys, without telling anybody nothing. but the Germans tried to be control full of Ukraine. Then suddenly they turn around and say, my older sister finished her high school at the time, gymnasium, and she wanted to go to the medical school. She started medical school, and so happened that one of the students that she was in the high school still he was the sharpest guy in the whole class and actually in the whole town out of school, that people that she spent time with, or they used to get together, like about 15 friends they had all together, used to get together. And this guy, he was so smart, he learned the language in a year's time, and he was acting as a interpreter. So he turned around and he said he was working in the office where they were actually by force taking all young people to take it to work to Germany. And so happened, my list turned to my sister came, Anna. So he comes in and warned her. She said, you know what? They're going to take you. But meanwhile, he said, what can we do? He said, you know what? I'll fix you. And he was able to go in and send her. So happened he was working with the Germans actually, translating things, and he had the good connections. He said, go to the doctor, tell him that you have some kind of sickness or something, you know. So he fixed it up for her in such a way that they produced a document for her that she's not capable of, because of her health. And they took her off, but she was still on the list. Okay, she thanked him very much. She was so thankful to him, to that young man. She mentions his name. I had the biography right now. It's written in Ukrainian language. It so happened that just last night, I didn't know that I had all of her stuff for her. And then, as soon as we found out that this German officer came to my father and said, tomorrow we have to leave town because Russian invading our city. And that's why evidently, I don't remember exactly, same day they dismissed us from school already. I don't know if it was the day before, that must be the same. That part I don't remember. But as soon as they said, tomorrow we are leaving, my sister, because of that guy helped her so much, she got in touch with him. She go see him, tell him get out, because Russian punish interpreters that are interpreter. They'll kill you anyhow. Don't stay behind because Russian take over. Get out from the city. She warned him. So, oh, by the way, not only once, he only fixed her medical records. Then he turned around and got rid of her records from the office so that she was not even listed there. So she was so thankful to him, okay? And she to pay back, she had to tell him to get out. So next day, in the morning, I remember we were packed on the truck with some of the belongings, whatever we had. And as far as my father said farewell to my mother because he had to go to the city of Kirovograd, 300 kilometers away from Dneprodzerzhsk. And that Dneprodzerzhsk I'm calling, this is the Ukrainian city. But this is the old name. When Russia took over Ukraine, they changed the city from, I'm sorry, the old name was Kamyanske. And when Russia took over, they called it Dneprodzerzhsk. So that's the city that I was. And still probably they change it back right now to Kamyanske. All of the many cities Russians changed before to their likings. And streets and the streets and so on. So that morning we left with the truck, and as we're leaving in the morning at the outskirts of the city, actually we were traveling along the river Dnieper. And on one of the hills, I saw across the river Dnieper beautiful scenery, and on the other side we saw smoke from the different places coming in, like it looked like it was a fire was burning. And I said, oh, somebody's burning hay. And the guy said, no, there's not hay, because houses are burning. Because people on the other side of the river probably, we don't know if it was German retreating and burning the houses so it doesn't fall into the Russian hands. So people were burning things. Who burning it, we did not know. But so my mother and father said farewell to my father. Meanwhile, we went to the Kirovograd, to relatives of my father. And from that Kirovograd, my father still was there. Oh, this side, we came together with the father too. But from there, from Kirovograd, he had to leave later to different town again because Russians were advancing ahead. From Kirovograd, my father took me to my grandmother village where originally my father and mother was born, and that's where they got married and so on. And with grandmother I stood, and the only thing I had is a Ukrainian book by the Ukrainian poet Taras Shevchenko. I did go to school there at the time, but my father was working at Kirovograd, and my mother used to go visiting him there. And I used to go under the back of the stove of my grandmother, and also across the street to my uncle, which was also lots of time I was left alone in there. And I was learning self-educating, and I said, when my father and mother comes, I'm going to tell them how well I learned the Kobzar's poems. And I was learning them. Rozrita Mohila, dug out graves, and all of this. And I learned all Ukrainian history from his book, Kobzar. He's already published, and we had that book with us all the time. It was just like a Bible to us. So once we were there for a while, Germans, when the Germans occupied, while actually we were, that's when my father returned back to the village again, you know. I was telling this actually before, you know. So we were staying with my grandmother.
1 second. Staying with your grandmother?
So I'm twisting a little bit, you know. That's okay. While we were with my grandmother, my father still was able to come to us, and then because they are changing them to different city, the bank, because Russian advancing again. So we have to evacuate from my grandmother, and the city where we moved was called Pervomaisk. This is where the river Buh and Sinyuha joined together. That's right, almost like it's not Romanian border, but it called it a Transnistria. And then after Transnistria, there is a Bessarabia. And after Bessarabia, then it's called the Romania. Okay, so right along this, so my father and he took us in there, and he was working in the bank in there. And I have quite a few stories in there, how I almost got killed by retrieving a piece of food from the room building. The wall almost crashed me, and so on. And he had some, with the German soldiers, some conflict, but that's a detail I won't be telling you at this moment. But once we stood there for a while, around the New Year time, again we had to move out from there. And then actually we see that front is moving. My father had no choice, and even though he still was in the hands of German officer that he had to obey him, he quit, and we actually escaped from the hands under German control, and with his brother and our wagon and another couple of people, 3 wagons, we decided to escape and go to Romania. So my father pretended he is sick, went on a wagon, we packed up, and we crossed in the city of Pervomaisk. And there are 2 bridges to cross. One is River Sinyuha, and the other one, River Buh. And once we crossed there, we were like a Transnistria under Romanian domination. And my uncle had to bribe the Romanian guards. He had lots of soap in there because he was in charge of a soap factory. And that was our saving life, because he was trading soap, and we were able to get food and so on, and get some Romanian corn flour, and they boil it in the water. They call it mamaliga. That's what saved us from food. So once we did cross the border, we had some friends in there, which we hid for 3 days hid our horses so Germans won't find us where we are. And then from there on, in the middle of the winter, we started a trip into the depth of Romania, further out west, as far as we could go. God knows where. As we were traveling, we traveled quite a while until January, February, through the winter time, go through some cities, okay? Then we went to let's see, what is it? Through River Nestor, okay, into the Romania. From Bessarabia, Transnistria, we traveled. Those people still were Ukrainian descent, but later on, we didn't understand the Romanians. But the Romanians were very helpful to us also. So we traveled it across, we straight many times on the roads with the Russian airplanes along the roads. The roads were filled. The whole Ukraine was fleeing at the time. It's just fleeing, just like fleeing people right now. That's exactly. We are running away from the same devil, Moscow domination. People were running away. That's what reminds me at this moment. Now,
so it would be safe to say that you guys living under German rule was a lot better, even though they were awful. It was better than if Russia took over. The immediate reaction is, let's get out of here.
Yes,
let's
definitely,
run away.
definitely.
And so you were traveling.
We didn't want to go to Germany. We didn't want, but the fact the German offered, oh, you go to Germany. No, my sister didn't want it because people know already. Germans treat us already. They start showing that we are Übermenschen. We are underdog. We are definitely. We already Ukrainian already start arresting people. Actually, we had some people that Ukrainian army that joined us. Okay, they joined the also. Russian army, General Vlasov, it's a Russian people, joined German army. They call it Vlasovцы. They were together with Joshua fighting Russians fighting Russians. And Ukrainians also, from Galicia, joined the German army, okay? And they were treated, even in Germany, I didn't come to that yet, but they were treated by Germans from the Western Ukraine, was treated better, but I'm a little bit far ahead because that's when we were in Germany. I learned that we were treating on the Soviet Union as a Soviet citizens, and we were able. But Ukrainians, because they had a Ukrainian army, they were a little bit more lenient, and they were a little bit better treating them. But still, no matter who any foreigners, as far as we understand, we are underdogs because Germany glorified themselves as. By their race, as their superior race. That was their goal. Russians, I don't think they were fighting as much as race-wise, but they were fighting dominance of Mother Russia, czars and so on, the kingdom. They were kingdom people. Germans were a little bit even higher than that. They were more superior race. That's a little bit like they were at the top of the Russians. That's a higher level of civilization, and that's what Germans were. And we recognize it as a Ukrainian. So it's one devil or the other devil, have a choice. But we ain't got any choice at this moment. Run the hell from one and the other. That's the bottom line.
And so, because I want to put a wrap on my segment, and then we're going to go with all your documents. And
Okay.
stuff. Again, there's so many details we overlooked. I know we'll go back,
Yeah.
so don't worry about that. But you have two devils. You have other people that have also entered into Ukraine from different countries that
Oh,
are
yes.
coming. And so
Romanians, Hungarians, troops.
Italians.
We
right?
had some Italians a little bit, but
short time.
somehow Romanians, Italians, yes. Italians had the blue uniforms. Romanians has a brownish uniform, but they were sort of, Romanians were like a low class army. Germans were unbelievable. They were super dressed, super unbelievable.
And
which,
you summarized it. You just said that them coming to Ukraine was just the beginning, right? World War II
mhm.
really wasn't in the full swing yet. It was like I guess this is the opinion, but I would say after the U.S. joined, that's when things got very
Yeah.
very serious. But at the beginning, you could already get a taste that the Germans are superior. They feel they're superior, and they're better than everyone else because of their skin, because of their eyes, their hair. But even with that, your instinct was still to run away from the Russians. So after running and moving on, could you share where you guys ended up before you were taken by the Germans, and then,
Before, well,
yeah,
that's why once we are traveling through Romania, God knows, they were going to go a little bit toward Odessa, right in that corner, or let's see the name of I try to remember the cities there to Bucharest, toward the Bucharest, but somehow we wound up much north. We were going wherever the wagons were going, just one way. Sometimes it splits. In Romania, they had some of those religion people. They had icons always because they believe in devil and superpowers and so on. You know, so you don't know which way. And then later on, they found out that the partisans we were moving as the Russian front was moving. One time we stopped one time near one village because we couldn't move any further. And I remember very vividly, it's a story by itself that we lived only just we spent like 3 weeks or almost a month in there because we couldn't travel in the mud with the horses and so on. And Germans Germans were pretty good to us in a way because they, people, you know, they left people alone, let's put it this way. They didn't Russians were like, the farming and all of this taken it away, but Germans, well, they were forcing people, they take people, they surrounded the people, they put them into the minefields, they surround the people, some people they shot if they resist or anything else. There is no resistance. Anybody doesn't listen to them, they shoot you. Okay, so that's, matter of fact, in this village where we stopped, it so happened we are playing outside, and my cousin and me were living in temporarily different houses because it was empty in there. Two soldiers comes in, and nice collie dog was with us playing. The Germans from the distance, bang, shot the dog right in front of us. And we were in eager agony. See, that's how rude they were, soldiers and stuff. But in a way, they left us alone, okay? One time we were traveling, our horses were so tired and everything else, but they were, with their horses, were so tired, they left their horses with us, and they were all like a soap on those horses. They were sweaty and so on. And took our horses away. Our horses were so weak and everything else. I don't know how they did. And so when they switched the horses for us, we called that horse, we had to stay there for a couple of days and feed the horse and so on. The horse came out, it was much stronger than our horse. It came out, and we called him Romanian, Rumen. And he pulled us out through all the mud, stronger than our horse. But later on we changed to the oxes. We had to travel with the oxes because the mud couldn't go through we went through Romania, Carpathian Mountains, okay, through, up to the end, almost close this near Hungarian border. And then we just keep going, and then one time we're coming in, and they are on the road, one after another, people traveling, thousands and thousands of people. They are braiding our horses with the fire, So what is this for? Keep going, you'll find out. We go in, everybody's surrounded, horses are taken away. All your men say anything that you can take with you, we put you on a cattle train and take you to work to Germany. And that's how we wound up. Where else can you go? You can escape, but you go wherever flow. So They took us and they did gave us a documents for horses. They gave us the documentation that they took. The government took the horse. German took the horses. This is a break for us. But this a little bit, I have a feeling the Russians probably would do that. They wouldn't even give a document. I don't know. They probably find another lie and tell you something else. That's their operation. To some degree, Germans were more they're brutal, but they were brutal and over brutal, But both forces comparison, they're brutal as one as another. Worse than one, I could say which one is more brutality. They're about equal as far as that brutality and human life by one or the other, unless you are on their side. That's the bottom line, and so that's they took us at first camp. They brought us to Poland in a city called Peremyśl. Okay, it so happened it was we still were on the wagons, and they took all adults inside for processing. But they left me alone in the wagon. And so I was sitting in the wagon and I listened to the people talking. It so happened right in front of our wagon, I was up in the wagon train, and the guy that runs the train talking with another guy. And he said, "Oh boy, now I have to go back and bring another echelon of people. That's all we're doing, is just pumping people in and out to concentration camps." But he said, if they take the Jews, when they take the Jews, don't go with the Jews, absolutely. They send you to another camp. They send you, and then nobody comes out from that camp. Just don't, you have to watch it. I listened, I heard the guy talking. So evidently he delivers to different stations wherever the tracks go, I don't know. But anyhow, that I heard personally as a child. I'm very sneak. I used to go on a wagon when we travel on a wagon. I pretend I sleep. I listen to what adults talking about. I knew all of them. Who is who and who is fooling around. See, I was very observative at that time. So I told my father that. Oh, okay. Is that you heard that picture? Yeah. So while we were in that Polish camp, one time I was playing outside. We stood there, I don't know, maybe a week, something, I don't remember. It wasn't very long. They gave us a bath in there. They gave us a bath. And one time I was in the yard, and I see a line of people standing. And my sister is calling me, "Come on, stand up in line, stand up with us." What's going on? They are looking for a man. And if somebody doesn't report that man, we're going to shoot every 10th person who's going to be shot. And we were saying for execution. And my sister called me. Wherever they grabbed the people, my family was one there, I don't know where my father was and where my mother was. I was playing outside, my sister, wherever they grabbed, they put them in a line at different places. I didn't even see my mother at that time, or father. The sister called me and put it in front of her. Then suddenly you hear the shots. Machine gun. I see bullets flying and a guy running across the field. This building that we were in, I think it was like a 2 or 3 story. It's a red brick building, huge, and fences, all red brick, all surrounded. Believe me, it was like maybe height of that door, about my estimate at this moment. They're shooting at this guy. The guy is running. I don't know if they were really aiming for him but the bullets were all over, the dust and everything else. That guy ran. He ran over that wall. Jumped over and disappeared. Okay? A while later, they dismissed the whole and they returned everybody back. Or maybe they caught the guy or whatever happened. But they were looking for a guy, and if somebody doesn't turn you in, we will get shot, everybody. So from there, they process us, put us on the cattle train again, and guess what? Where they take us? Instead of Germany, they go back through the Hungary, to Austria, all back like this through part of the Ukraine again, back to Austria and what's the name of the city? Links, city Links, big concentration camp in the Links. So we stayed there for quite a while. They processed us. Okay. So it happened there's a railroad track right next to the track. It's all fenced in. Railroad track and train. And on the train is artillery piece. And a German soldier with the German shepherd walking around guarding. The next day the train is gone someplace else. The train was going in, with a wagon. They're moving different locations constantly. So they fed us very badly in there. And we had a little bit corn flour, so we need some wood to burn. There's no wood to burn. But me and I found the double fence that was between that camp. One fence and another. And I see a big piece of wood laying in there. I said, if I can retrieve that piece of wood, we can have a fire and then we can make a babaliga, corn flour. So I took my sister and we went in there. And German soldiers is walking around with the guard, with the dog. As soon as he left, I snuck my hand in there and I pull it in, that piece of wood, and piece of wire go right under my skin and I got caught. It's bleeding, it caught, and I cannot pull it. It so happened that wire had like a hook and caught. Finally, my sister unhooked me in there. We brought the wood back with us and escaped. Same place, that's why I remember when I had a wood on my hand, someplace was already grew up. But anyhow, that's I remember. And then I remember in that camp, they called all men. Everybody, men and women and children were behind, but I saw it. I was so happy I was in the back watching everybody. Everybody had to empty their pockets, and all documents they had to surrender. But my father did not surrender the documents, and I have all of the documents with me.
And so if we could fast forward a little bit, I know there's a lot of details we're jumping over, but now I don't know if escape is the right word, but I'll just say the escape to America now.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to share a little bit of that.
Sure. But before this,
Yes, go ahead.
we are not recording it. We're recording already or not yet?
Go ahead.
Well, somehow I just wanted to go back a little bit. When I mentioned going with my father from Kirovarad to that was somehow I don't know if I was telling that. Yeah, that's it's correct. But somehow, I was thinking that from beginning that father was left from Kirovarad. No, he already notified when he was leaving from Kirovarad to the Pervomaisk. That's when before I think I told you that in Dnepropetrovsk. Well, she didn't say farewell yet. It's in Kirovograd. She said farewell to my mother in Kirova, because then he had to go to the other place, and we have to meet him. So there's all but discrepancy in my story in a sense. But okay, so now.
Yeah. So now I'm summarizing. From your father's time, it was already, the Ukraine was always kind of taken advantage of, and it just continued into your life, right? But now it's World War II, and the next people to take advantage are the Germans. Probably more afraid of the Russians still than the Germans, but they're both equal, they're both the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're in these camps, not quite the internment camps that the Jews and homosexuals and that they did, but it's still awful.
It's a concentration camp there, really.
Yeah, still. So.
Oh, they took us to shower, and I told you about it. They had the big chimneys in there too, and God knows what they were burning in those chimneys. One time I have very interesting. I described it in my book, that episode. If they're going to put a shower for us or gas. That was questionable. We were in those rooms. I think we were there, but see that was in the Links. We used to go, and one German kid, and they were taking us to shower every week or something like that, once a week or something. They take all men in there and the kids. And one German kid with a rucksack come and join us, goes inside, and they say, "Hold it back, what are you doing?" He came for free for shower and tried to get out. And once we were in a shower in there, they spray the guys disinfection. And of course, people that, especially the one that circumcised, it burns, and everybody comes in is trying to get a drop of water in there, because it will burn so wet. And they are waiting, no shower, and burning it. I was okay, I was not circumcised, so I was okay. It was burning me that bad. And then the one guy turned around and said, "You know what? Maybe, who knows, if the water comes or a gas will come out from there." Because we already knew that Germans doing that. People knew already. Like that guy was telling us, that they were already for a radio station. So people knew that Germans already taking it to and so we didn't know that particular time. There was a big chimney and everything. So one guy turned around and said, "Well, kiddo, you're going to go with us." And everybody started bursting to the left, with a swirl nest. The shower came, the kid took a shower and he jumped through the window or took off. We came back to the camp and then back in that camp again, like I told you, they took all of the men out, all passports. They collected all of the passports. They asked people what trades they have. My father and uncle said, "What the hell? Don't tell me the time a bookkeeper or something like that. Tell them we are farmers." We took us as farmers, and they took us for a farm. They took us from that concentration camp to another concentration camp in the city of Halle. From Halle, they process. That's where they make all of the documents for us. And again, say, don't get sick. If you get sick, you came out. You're dead. My father was struggling with the stomach, so once you have to suffer. And then from Halle, they took us to a farm, and we were laboring. I described my story up there, how the Gestapo beat my father, cracked 2 ribs, dug his teeth out. My mother, he was beating. I jumped the guy, and he beat the hell out of me. With me, so that I could see the sparklings in my eyes, and so on. And that's written in my story. And then the Americans are liberated us right there. When they liberated us, but the American officer wanted to send us back to the Soviet Union because of the Yalta Agreement with Joseph Stalin and Roosevelt. And we escaped from them. And unfortunately, I lost my book Kobzar there. We left behind. That was my very thick book. I have the pictures of it as a child reading that, where I learned all of the Ukrainian poems from them and history. And once we escaped from there,
I wanted to go back, starting at the Americans. So, was there any prompt, or was it all of a sudden that the Americans came, and you could share with that, and then continue?
Okay, while we are working on a farm, my assignment was as a home cook. So I was going out. German kids were tough on me, very tough. They called me Russian fee, whatever fee knows. I even don't know up to the moment what the fee means, but they were rough on me. One German kid was throwing rocks at me at one time, and so happened I ran and I jumped into the anti-tank hole the Germans dug for bazookas, I hit it there. So I stick my head out. A rock hit my head. I had a deep hole, and it started pus coming out. My father had to take me twice to a next village doctor. He had to stick something to burn the stuff out, and at least I healed. But I have a big bump in here. You see, a big rock almost knocked my eye out. The German, that's how they treated us. Well, he couldn't do nothing. My mother said, "Don't you fight with Germans because stood away, you cannot fight them back." Well, anyhow, once the Americans liberated, it so happened one time, I'm outside playing, we saw bombing city Halle, and next to our city was the city of Leuna. We saw from the city of Leuna a V-1 rocket flying over. But funny, best of my memory, I think it was flying back and forth. I think that's where they probably experimenting it, because they were flying over our heads. And I don't know, I cannot remember if it was going only one way, but I could swear that they were returning it back. So probably they were experimenting with the, because it had that big tube at the top of it and everything. I drew the picture of that in my book, of course, just as I remember. I saw, we had to several times, even though we were in a village, we had to go in the basement because the house was shaking from artillery and bombing, wherever they bombed. But there was a Leuna not far from us. Later on, I found out from Germans that that city Leuna is not on the map. It was a secret city that but the Ally found. And one time I was playing outside, and actually it was bombed. And I saw those big tanks coming into flames. It was kind of scary. We lay down and just watched it. Just the outskirts of the city, on the left side of us. On the right side, there was a Halle, there's a concentration camp, and then on the left side. Then one time I playing in the street, and as I play, I see an American Jeep coming in. So I ran across the street where our house was, but where our house was, there was a brick wall, and there was a garden in there, and it's a gateway. The door was closed, but it's a gateway. With this wall was very thick, concrete wall, about maybe 6 or 8 feet tall, all around. And so I went into the doorway. I hid in the doorway because the jeep was coming, jeep with 2 soldiers. And across the street is the German soldiers, one with machine gun. Americans are coming in, and this guy had a machine gun, and he's pointing. They see the jeep is coming, and he was going to shoot right across from me. Okay, and as they were American with 2 soldiers coming in, they had a jeep with a white star. Okay, white star, but now I thought that was a Russian star. So, and he was just ready to shoot, and the other guy grabbed him by the back, pulled him in, and jeep went through, and they didn't shoot. Of course, I forgot to say, this was the second car I saw. Before, I was almost playing same place. An American truck came over to that square where that jeep before us. Knocked all of the signs that were showing where the road leading, that way, they took knocks and went back. Okay? I saw a white star, I ran home and said, "Ma, Russians are here, Russians are here. What are you talking about? A star." But I didn't realize that Americans had a white star, and Russia has a red star. So that fooled me. Well, anyhow, go back to the jeep. I almost got shot by the Germans right there. I could have been really, if that shot, definitely those bullets would have been right into me. Americans came over. Where we lived, there was lots of Russians, lots of Polish people up there. They're all in the villages. They got together. They got the freedom. They started drinking, celebrating. But we stood. Some of the Russian people want to go home, but my father said, "I didn't want to go home." So the American soldiers told me, "No, we're going to repatriate you. You have to go." And he told my father, 7 o'clock, and he even showed the gun to father. "Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, we take you. We come in the truck." My father, before he said that, my father didn't want to go with the rest of the people. Everybody left. On the wagons, they had a branch, a celebration. They returning home to Mother Russia. Okay, then they didn't know what they waiting them, but they left. My father said that my sister was sick, so we stood behind. Okay, but when the American officer was threatening to take us back, at 4 o'clock in the morning, next morning, we grabbed everything. I left my book behind. We had some bacon, food, whatever we could carry food with us. Went to the city of Halle, which was occupied, and we received a paper from the military government, and I have that piece of paper authorizing us to stay. While we stood there for a couple of months, they gave us a good food, same as the Germans already, treat us good, Americans. But then they were giving the territory back to the Russians. So we turned around, hired a German, my father got together with him and some people, one professor, Boris Lysansky, one physicist that used to be in Ukraine also. He was running away from Bolsheviks for the longest time. He was a big fish. He was a scientist, professor in physics. And he organized our people. We got 20 people, hired a German guy to take us to British zone. So toward the evening, we left. We're going to a different cities. Well, afternoon we left. going, Mom, some cities completely ruined. There's only chimneys are standing. Oh, unbelievable. What a scenery, and then late at night we go into a British suit, and the British military police stopped us. We had to show their paperwork, and we had authorization from American authorities, families. Checked out. They said, we bring to our friends close by. We know where they are. They brought us late at night, and they said, tomorrow morning they'll open. Nobody there. You'll report to them, and they'll help you. They'll help you. And MP left. Several people came in and looked at the front of the house, and guess what? A big Joseph Stalin picture in there. It's a Russian embassy. That's where he brought us in. We pushed the wagon. The wagon was out of coal too. He ran out of wood chip. He was running on wood chips, German. I didn't even tell you he was going to quit before us, but the American forced him to take us back. Once we were there was a Red Cross on the same street that was sheltering people, and they took us in. And from then on, we start organizing. This professor organized more of Ukrainians, and the British authorities authorized us to establish Ukrainian camps. So they had a Polish camp, Russian camp, Ukrainian camp. Different nationalities has different camps. Refugees that didn't want to go to Russia, and so on. And once they gave us a small camp, there was like 30 people, 40 people. Then, but later, we grew too big. They gave us another camp. It was 5 barracks. Once we had the 5 barracks, I have lots of stories to tell about that, ink and all of this. And then from that, we moved to a bigger camp where 2,000 people. And that's where we stood almost 4 years, or almost 5 years, since 1945 to 1949. We stood that in that camp, and we applied to United States. But meanwhile, people were leaving different. Australia, South America, everybody, we tried to go, but not Mother Russia. And once we were there, my sister went to England, and she figured to go to England, then she can sponsor us. So once she got there, but meanwhile, we received the paperwork, and my father had relatives in the United States. My father's mother's brother or something like that, relatives, and by the name Klopotov. And they signed off for us, but under Red Cross, doesn't cost us anything. The Americans help us, paperwork. We process paperwork, and from Germany, we came to New York City Harbor, and we were the first on the ship General McCrae called entered the United States in November 1949. Our uncle met us there, brought us to the farm, but then we realized that the uncle is pulling for the Russians, so it's good. He's a good friend with Russians, that's good. We had a little bit crash in here. That's not in our blood to do that, so we left our uncle. Go to a goat farm with one Italian guy, had a goat farm. We go in a massive barn, and he took us. He was kind, a simple man, beautiful man, took us in to survive. But meanwhile, this doctor that owned that land, or the guy had a goat farm, was building a cabin, and he gave a job to my father to build that cabin. My father was making a little bit money, and then he said, we'll rent it from you. So once we started living there, for a couple of months, my sister meanwhile went with my uncle's father to Chelsea, to Boston, but he died right away. So my sister has established herself there. So she turned around and sponsored us from there, and she found some friends, Polish family. Her husband, one Ukrainian guy with a Polish woman. They were very friendly, but they had a problem with their daughter, and they took our my sister, just like their own daughter. And they treated her so well. She sponsored us, and we came to Boston, Massachusetts. I found her apartment because she was divorcing, so we bought it for $4,000. We had to pay them off for that, and then my father and mother found a job, and we started working in the United States, in Boston, Massachusetts. I went to the 9th grade in there. Of course, in Germantown, I started in Germantown. I started 8th grade, but that was just finished, and then they transferred me. At Chelsea, Massachusetts, I started to the 9th grade, and started at school. And then from 9th grade, I went to the high school, finished Wentworth Technical Institute, okay, and later on found a job, and I got all my history.
What did you work as? What was your main profession?
My professor, I got the associate degree in electrical engineering in the Wentworth Tech. I got a diploma with me. I can show you. Yeah, I got associate degree in electrical engineering from at that time. So what we were receiving only certificates at the time, but Wentworth Institute with the Massachusetts, they were working so that they can have the degree instead of a certificate. So I received that time. The curriculums that they gave us at the time was already met the requirements for Massachusetts schools, okay, to obtain the associate degree. So once I received the degree, but then a diploma, they already sent me later, because once they approved that they had to resubmit, I had to send the $20. I was already in the army at that time. When I graduated, then the school found me a job, and I went for interviews closer where my father was. As soon as I started working there, the army called me from Massachusetts. Now we are inducted.
All right, I'm going to pause it for one moment. I wanted to try to, so we got to this place now where we're in America, and the angle that I'm trying to get at is everything that's been happening, history repeats itself, but you were able to get out, and I'd like you to share very quickly, very like 1 or 2 sentences.
What is what?
Of 1 or 2 sentences of what you're doing now. It's kind of like I got out and life is better, right? Because we want a happy ending. So you touched it. You said just now that you were able to attend 9th grade, and then after that you got associate's degree and other certificates in and electrical engineering, right? So maybe you could say that, but just like when you introduce your name, like to someone, like to my dad, oh, I'm an electrical engineer and all that, and this is what I do. That could be like the ending part of all the stories. And then we'll pause, and then I'd like to ask you, kind of like a judge asks questions. I might ask you about your opinion about what's happening, right? Now we're gonna do the present.
Okay.
So just a moment, I'm gonna, we'll ask more about.
Okay, so from schooling, starting from schooling from after 9th grade, from Wentworth?
More like my name is Zach Forbes, and after moving from Malaysia to here, for me,
okay.
I became a musician, and
Okay.
now I play trumpet professionally.
Okay. But I
Very
see,
quick.
I don't know if at this time, sorry to mention, so whenever I go, like in the United States, we always look where is the Ukrainian churches so that we can belong. I think, should we enter that later or
We could add that later.
later?
Yeah, this one will be more of a quick
Just education-wise, what's in education field?
Very briefly, you could just say later on I got my associate's degree and I worked professionally as blah 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 at blah blah blah. Was there a company that you worked with, or is it?
I received from school. As soon as I finished the high school electrical course, I was going to be an electrician.
Yeah.
So I was going to open my own business. But once I started working for engineering department for Mohawk Carpet Mills, it's working for company, because I was single at that time. Of course, even when I was in the army, when they deducted, I was helping my father financially to pay for the farm. I was sending him from my check automatically $40 a month for that. I was helping my father to pay for the farm.
Yeah. So, whatever it is, if it could be almost like bullet points. Like
Okay.
I went to school and I did this,
Mhm.
and then I worked professionally as this. I also went to the army, and my life. I'll never forget what happened, but my life is better now.
Yes.
So maybe like a very quick version of what I just said. Just,
Okay.
just so that
Okay.
we could put it all together.
Yeah.
And I have to be cautious with the camera that I have because I don't have so much. I don't have so much battery on these, and you're sharing a lot of good things, but the camera battery doesn't last so long.
Uh-huh.
That's the only thing that I'm running into. So if we could try,
Short.
we're just gonna summarize. Now you're in America, right? You don't need to say it. Once I got to America, I got this degree. I did this. I joined the army, and
I wonder if I quickly, let's see, just,
Yeah.
let's see what is, I did summarize in here, but I don't know if it's worth it. Let's see.
oh no, I don't think a summary. I don't think a summary like that. Just one moment.
Oh, no, yeah, because that covers everything.
Yeah.
Oh, folks home?
Yeah, they just got back. I just let them know. Give me a few minutes. And then
Okay.
So, I don't think you need to read for your summary. I think let's try it. So,
Okay, from the, from high school, from graduate,
repeat this. Later, when I was in America,
uh-huh.
did you say it? Later, when I was in America,
Later, when I was in America,
I got my associate's degree in
Uh-huh.
electrical engineering.
associate, right?
So say that just so you have it in your mind.
Okay.
I got my.
Later in my life, in United States, I got an associate degree in electrical engineering from Wentworth Technical Institute in Boston, Massachusetts.
Good. And so that I would like that exact piece, and then after that, later on, I joined. You said the U.S. Army.
Well, yeah, I was inducted.
You did. Yeah.
I was inducted to the U.S. Army.
And then was there something else
Well,
significant?
well, actually, when I graduated, as soon as I graduated, okay, I was hired by the Mohawk Carpet Mills in Amsterdam, New York. But in a very short while, I was inducted to the U.S. Army. Upon completing my terms in U.S. Army, which is between 1956 and 58, I returned back to the Mohawk Carpet Mills, worked for a few years there, and then I got married and decided to move closer to my farm, to the my parents' farm, where my wife's parents were also there. It was closer. So I applied to a job closer. I could not get the job from IBM because they wouldn't hire, they needed electronic engineers instead of electrical. So I applied in 3 places: State of New York, job, a graphic, the standard gauge company in Poughkeepsie, and also this close to my parents. And closest one was near Kingston, New York, standard gauge, the Graphic Techniques Incorporated. So that Graphic Techniques, I didn't even know it so happened. My hobby was electronics. And I was, even presently, I have my neighbor, which reminds me with his electronics collections of tubes and so on. I was a radio collector and building my own radios just on my own. So that would help me. I was able to read the schematic diagram very well, and I was very good at electrical wiring. So that was my specialty, a real good specialty. So I proved myself very good to design for computers, printed circuit cards for supercomputers for IBM, which was at the time with a big contractor for government. And once we started working, I was able to take even work to home and had all my flyers pasted in the middle of the night till 4 o'clock in the morning because I had to meet the requirements. That's how hard I worked for government to build those computers. And I was an error-free everywhere. They liked me because none of my work was returning back. You know, everything was 100% correct. So to one vendor, they sent me in Poughkeepsie, New York, to directly working in the IBM.
I don't want to pause you. So, the summary up to there, saying that you got your associate's degree, and then you worked, went to the Army, went back to work, ended up at IBM. And then would you, I don't know if there was another significant thing, right? You're like sharing like all this, pardon my French, but all this shit happened, and then now slowly, you know, you took ownership and you are able to have these free choices to do good things and to work, and to do things professionally and all that.
Yes.
So instead of any stories or details, we'll just go full circle.
Okay.
Let me ask you, what's the last thing you would like to say that can finish it all? For example,
To say thank you to the United States for having freedom in here. That's most elastic.
okay, let's do that. Okay, so we'll try this and we'll see how much battery this has because I have to charge. So we have to do it a little bit quick.
Yes.
Sorry to rush you
Okay.
on that. I'm gonna get this all set. But your information is great, and also I've been recording some of this, so don't worry, none of it has been lost. You have all the information. Okay, that's recording. Audio here, still recording. And so you're starting at, you're in America and you got your associate's degree. And then just bullet point,
Okay.
what are the kinds of jobs that you've done professionally? You went to the Army, and then kind of you work until retirement very quickly, and then what you would like to say, maybe thanking America or thanking the resilience of the Ukrainian people in poetry and things like that.
Okay.
But a quicker version.
And
just-
I'll mention church too, so such a belong to church and so on, you know, so that my life
Yeah, faith,
complete
religion.
package.
Yeah, as long as it's a
Yeah.
quicker one. Okay.
So once I graduated from Technical Institute,
Okay. Just say it here. Don't worry about that camera.
okay.
Yeah.
Once I graduated from Technical Institute, they found me a job in Amsterdam, New York for Mohawk Carpet Mills, but I started working there at the time I was single, but I was close to my father, about 70 miles away. Weekends I helped my father financially and so on, everything was good. But Boston, Massachusetts sent me a letter for the induction of the U.S. Army. So therefore, I left the Mohawk Carpet Mills and finished my inductions. They sent me, I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and Arkansas for artillery. And after that, was sent to Hawaii, 14th Infantry, 25th Division. Okay. I finished my terms in there with a nice letter of recommendation from Captain Sipe that gave me an excellent, and I showed to my bosses when I came back from the Army. But meanwhile, I worked for a couple more years, then I got married there while I worked for Mohawk Carpet, and I decided to move closer to my parents' house. So I found a job through a contractor, which I was working with the IBM, working on a supercomputer with a logic designer. But at that time, after a while, working at IBM premises, IBM liked me, my work, and they hired me permanently for where I worked for 30 years. I got my retirement from that, and now summarizing my summary of the America, and now how beautiful America is, and that song is really have a beautiful words for that, because it is. But it says how you take it, that if you take it and you all opportunities in the America is here for anybody. So there's no time for people to complain and cry about it. All opportunities is here and country is giving you as long as you work and a decent person. And that's why I'm so grateful. My father, he rests in this American land. And I'm crying right now for that because it is a great land. And he adored this country and adored freedom. And I'm following his steps and I'm teaching my kids the same way to love this country and try to pass on to people, no matter what nationalities you are, what color we are, we should be together. But I do not tolerate nonsense. I do not tolerate dictatorship of other countries. And I'm glad that America taking a course right now to approach those devils into the face right now. And I am proud of America for doing that. And thank you, and thank you, and thank you, America. And I hope America wake up because you do have some people, and that every country have the turquoise and so on, that people are not really, I'm not necessarily educated. Actually, there are some educated that are so smart, but they are not smart enough to recognize the evil. And they have to recognize, to read the faces, how they talk. And unfortunately, that is a skill itself that only people that live through that hell can recognize. You know, when somebody approach you and talk to you, you know, normal smart person has professorship and everything, but yet they cannot read those false faces because they can really outmaneuver. And believe me, those people are really those communisms right now, and same as Germans, same way the propaganda, they are professional in this. The really professionalism is in people that recognize that they are professional, that they recognize the evil and stop it.
Beautiful. We're going to revisit some touching things, mainly about what's happening. And this, you don't need to be quick, but if you would like to, think that most of the people here in this segment that we're doing right now, most people don't know the Ukraine situation.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that Ukraine really has been bullied for 100 years, right? 100 years, right?
Hundreds,
More than
300.
300 years.
During the Tsars, Peter the Great, Catherine the Great.
So now we're just going to talk about now.
Okay.
You've shared a good amount of information about what has happened before.
Right.
So what do you want the American people to know? Because mainly it's us that could make a difference.
That's right. That's right.
To help.
And at this moment, right now, they're waiting for that artillery because they are more powerful than the Ukrainians. Actually, they are defending all Europe. Believe me or not, Ukrainians and Europe, they are defending all Europe right now.
So if you would like, you could open with history is repeating itself again.
That's right.
Now that Vladimir Putin is making this lie that this, but actually he wants to take over Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe some of what you said again, but you could touch more.
I understand.
Go ahead.
So, at this age, since I'm 88 again, and try to summarize of my life what's happened. I'm not a historian, but just from my own family, what we went through, from all my friends that I met in the GP camps, in concentration camps, everywhere, you know, reading and recognizing, you know, all of those people that I met condemned those, like, for example, Nazism and communism. Being in this country, which is free and has all nationalities begging to come to this country, okay? Now, that is a paradise, actually. It's paradise. You have your choice. You can come in, you can go to school in here, everything, it's your choice. So therefore, some people crying and complaining. Well, it's not the time to complain. It's the person itself is what you want to do out of yourself. So don't go in and blame anybody or cheat anybody. When you're cheaters, That nobody honored that. So therefore, I'm very thankful to America for all of this was done for me. And I had my own course, even besides this schooling, I had my own courses. I took some educational classes at home just to be sure that I follow up a little bit more of my own entertainment. I was able to go and even like after the war, when we were not baptized, but after the war in Germany, when we had the freedom under the British and American liberation, I was able to, they baptized me for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and everywhere I go, I try to follow my roots, and I have respect for other nationalities, for their roots, and I like to go to church, I like to join our and work together with different groups, and we've been doing this for years already here in America. Especially, I lived in the state of Washington, right close to the Canadian border. There was no Ukrainian church there, so I went across the border to Canada, and I met a beautiful church in there, and I used to go every weekend in there. I'm the member in there. I was member there with all of this years since my wife passed away. And we're giving the nice concert in there. I turned out, even though I'm not a singer by no means, but when we don't have any talent, well, we have to squeeze it in wherever we can so that we can have our own concerts and our meetings and our own entertainment, just like those people, that peasants on the farm, that they were all themselves and nobody overlooking them, nobody stop you. You can find your own friends and do anything good. Nobody stops you. And that's the beauty of this country. Then God bless America. That's my saying.
Yeah. How do you feel about what's happening in Ukraine right now?
I worry very strongly because the Russians, they are very powerful force, very powerful. It's massacring people. I tell you, I'm honored that Americans are helping, but even this, Ukraine is only 40 million people, having 150 million people in Russia. It is very powerful. Unfortunately, America made a big mistake during Cold War, when communists went down. What I did on internet, I plead on internet to the West, do not feed giant, because he'll come and bite you. And you know, whatever I put, I'm a small person, and who am I? I'm a drop of water in the sea. But why somebody doesn't listen to those big politicians, to those little people? Because I think they know better than those politicians, and they're running. And sometimes they running, you down and whole country down because you are not doing things on time properly. That's why sometimes it's very important to listen and facts and taking it seriously. Instead of a bickering of the small around to politics, Democrats and Republicans and so on. This is a bickering clip, absolutely. It's a peddling. It's unbelievable. I am against that. It's good to have a different parties and so on, but don't create America as a united. That's why if somebody try to break that, that's the time you break their back. That's the time you kick them out. Tell them, hey, especially there's some people even that, well, again, I feel a little bit embarrassed to saying it, but I met some Russian people in here and they come in and they pull in for Russian and they are here. Well, I'm saying, why the hell you don't go back to the Russia? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yet, I have some Russian friends close. I'm not against the people, but some people, are really pulling forward. And that's why a politician can make a big mistake. And that's why Russia so great, because actually America, you built it. You helped to build them. Why did you listen to my words to the little Walter Melnychenko put on the internet? My message to the West: do not feed giant, because he'll come bite you. And well, he is biting you. It started with Ukraine, but then he's next one. Next year is Poland. Next year is Czechoslovakia. next in Germany, they're hungry for that. That's you see, the Putin, you have to read their mind. Yeah. This another thing I like to say. There's some people in here is favoring them too. And if you favor them too deeply, those people come in and they can disguise you. They can disguise you. They make you believe, but they still, if they know in a split moment, they can check and join them. And that's what we have to really protect ourselves. If somebody here, I don't want to accuse anybody right now at this moment, but I tell you one thing. I have enough experience in my life to read people's mind. And at this moment, I don't want to say who, but some politicians, even right now in Washington, you give them a chance. They be in brotherhood with Russians, just like brothers. And they'll, little by little, they'll turn this country into that type of a regime. And you know what? It could happen very quickly if a people, don't watch themselves. It's true. I don't know if that's proper or not, but.
No, it's fine.
Huh?
Could you move close again, like you did just now? I just wanna.
Which is true. And I don't want to say who it is, but. Maybe better leave it alone.
No, you're okay. I'm thinking. What is your message to the Ukrainian people that are there right now?
My message to Ukrainian people, that you are the hero in front of the world. We didn't do what you did. We escaped from that. And I tell you, at this moment, at that time, that's the situation we didn't have any chance. But at least by reviving a little bit what we did right now, you're doing a heroic thing of stepping up and fighting for freedom. I wish my parents would have gone. Even at this moment, I feel like even right now, I could put my last drop of blood. And I even join right now so I could blow up a couple of those tanks after myself if I could, even though I'm crippled right now. But that's the way I would have decided right now. If I would be living there right now, I would not evacuate and I would join you fighting that. At this moment, unfortunately, the distance, condition, and so on. Yeah, I could have get shot right away, but at this moment, I sympathize you. You are glorified. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini и героям слава. I bow you people, and I bow America for helping. Thank you.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
Yeah.
I tell you, if somebody rolled me right now, if I could be of any help, I would go blast them. Give me a couple training bazooka, I would shoot them bastards. That's my feel. Unbelievable people fighting right now.
But you're right. If we don't do anything and we let things sit by, then it happens to other countries. And you said it the best about the giant. Don't feed the giant because they're gonna want to keep eating more and more.
Exactly.
And more and more.
Same thing with China. Same thing with China. You see, when I was working with in IBM, so this guy, he way above me, big scientist and so on. He reads the Boston Globe, New York Times every morning, receiving his politics talking to me. Oh, I say, China, they'll grow up, they will probably have to watch it. Don't worry about. You know what? Once we start helping them economy, and once they become economically say business and so on, they'll go in and they'll go in the business and they'll become what you call American economy. There's nobody. I say no. I said no. Sure enough, they become exactly what Russia doing. It they copying book by book. The Russians, they are even international the songs. You see, but you see, look at this. Russian, they have created the international. Or what in English, the hymn, was the national anthem. Every country has national anthem. Well, Russia, Soviet Union, national anthem was "Вставай, проклятый, na 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 na." That was international. But that no, wait, that's international, okay, for inter. But then for whole world, they created. For Soviet Union, they created на краях героев свободы республик, на Великая Русь, на. Beautiful melody, Vaisyu. But that was a Soviet Union. When Soviet Union fell, Russian wrote a nationals. Tell you the truth, I even don't remember, I even don't want to hear them. But they had their own Zarya Khrayiram. But then they changed it. And you know what they changed to? Na 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 na. The copy exactly same tone what they. Now, who the hell started Soviet Union? Soviet Union Republic. They copied because they were Moscow controlling everything. That's a. Now you have to be a blind. That's a fact. So they are the chief executives of the Communist Party. Don't tell baloney that we are you Slovenia, you are all equals and all. When it fell, they took because they liked the melody so well. They changed the word a little bit different to match them, but melody they kept it because so nice. It's very touchy. But stupid people fall for that. That's my look.
I think this is a good segue. I wanted to ask about probably one poem that you think encapsulates everything you've talked about the best. And I know you made a reference inside here. I don't know if it would be good to recite from him, but from Taras Shevchenko. How do you say it?
Taras Shevchenko.
Taras
Shevchenko.
If you have a particular poem in mind or something like that.
Only problem in Ukrainian language, I know them.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, that's perfect.
I can give it. Yeah.
You're doing Ukrainian.
Yes, Ukrainian Taras Shevchenko wrote a poem, Ukrainian. It's called "Undug Grave." In English, don't remember exactly. The wording is kind of hard to, but in Ukrainian language, I will tell you this poem. Розрита могила, світа тихий краю милий, моя Україна, за що тебе сплюндровано, за що могилиш? Чи ти рано до схід сонця Богу не молилась, чи ти діточок, непевно, звичаю не вчила? Молилась я, турбувалась, день і ніч не спала, своїх діток виглядала, звичаю навчала. Виростали мої діти, мої добрі діти, панувала, і я колись на широкім світі панувала. О, Богдане, нерозумний сину, подивись тепер на матір, на свою країну, що колишучи співала про свою недолю, що співаючи ридала, виглядала болю. Сини мої заковані в роботу, сиді мої на чужині, на чужій роботі. Дніпро, брат мій, висихає, мене покидає, і могили мої милі москаль розриває. Нехай риє, розкопує, не своє шукає. А тим часом перевертні нехай підростають та поможуть господарювати та з матері полатану сорочку здіймати. Поспішайте ж, недолюдки, матір катувати. На четверо розкопана, розрита могила. Чого вони там шукають? Що там схоронили? Старі батьки? Якби то знайшли, що там схоронили, не плакали б діти, мати б не журилась. I can translate you what it says,
Yeah.
if you like to.
This
It's a very deep poem. It's against the Moscow.
Yeah, this battery is kind of going down. I think if you wanna, you could say it in English, but this might die.
Okay.
And then we'll do it here. But no, it's low battery. That was
Yeah, I don't know by
Beautiful.
heart, as far as, but I can translate a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I could put this in. And I think with the battery.
Poem is about a dark grave. They said somebody dug, they Russian they dug a grave and shine, oh shine, my beloved country. Why are you destroyed? Because you are not praying God this morning, or you didn't teach your children the habits. And she said, Mother Ukraine says, no, I pray to God every morning. I taught my children good habits. My children were growing up, my beautiful children. And once I was glorified in the whole world. But River Dnieper is keep drying. Is leaving me behind. And my graves, the Moskowitz digging out. What is he looking in those graves? What is he digging for? He is looking not for his own things. And meanwhile, the turncoats are growing up. Hurry up, you turncoats. Keep helping him to digging those graves. I only would knew. So I wouldn't even come back to Ukraine. It's just well, basically that's this guy. Yeah, I have to really read because it's okay.
No, it's good. Very good.
There is an end, But the main thing is that it's about the turncoats and so on, Тим часом but turncoats they grow up and help the Moscovites to rule things. Oh, that is you see, is another good part, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really great that you have all this by memory and by.
I know this by memory. He said the ending is very good, but I'm losing the track when I'm translating.
No, it's okay. So
the end said, repent yourself, because someday the river Dnieper will become the cloud will cover the sun, and everything will be destroyed, and you will forget about everything, things like that. So you will be damned.
So I think right now it's almost 7,
Wow.
so it is quite late.
Yeah.
I want to ask a few more questions, and I think we might have to continue this a different day.
Okay.
Just so we get everything.
Sure. Anything.
We have plenty of things.
Yeah.
If you leave it with us, we could photocopy it all.
Sure.
But the questions I wanted to ask, because we're finishing this segment, right? The
Okay.
shorter version. You've already introduced yourself and the importance of the story. You shared some of your father's story, your story, and your thoughts of what's happening now, and a message to Ukraine. I wanted to ask more about the Ukrainian culture briefly, just like you did in the summary, because of battery. You shared poetry, but I haven't asked you the importance of poetry. Farming, I'd like to ask the importance of farming and how that, and the railroad and the trains, how that was like the main job, income source. Bread, the importance of bread.
That's what's right now what's happening right now. You see, did you see it have millions and millions tons of bread? The wheat is feeding the world. You know, it's the Ukraine 30% of the production of the wheat in Ukraine, sunflowers. That's what my sister she writes in her story how she goes along the road and she said all of the flower and poppy seeds and all of this and the smell in the evening. She goes there, those beautiful flowers, it's odor, blue sky, fresh air, all of this encounters harmonized. She has a child. She said it's a paradise. It's a paradise for people, for those farmers. Yet they work so hard. They work their butts off, you know. And yet nobody, but yet when they come, when the devil comes in, they come in and destroy everything. They take everything away from you, destroy. That's exactly what happened. Exactly. Now, where do you? And she described it. It's funny. My sister, the other sister, sent me that. And I didn't realize it that I didn't even read it. Last night I found, I gathered all of this because when I was in there, but I didn't have time to read it. My golly, she sent it. So I read it last night.
And so you would say that, maybe you could re-say what I say, but bread is not just food in Ukraine, it's also the smell and the aroma creates this almost paradise.
Exactly.
That was taken away, so that's why it's so important.
That's right. Especially for farmers. That's exactly. This is not that far away from the industrialization, the civilization. Yeah, let's put it this way. The way you look at it, the villagers, okay? Then you could take like American Indians, okay? You take for example. But you know, when I'm comparing American Indians and I compare Ukrainian people, no, you see, American Indians have to travel from place to place. They go in and they hunt the buffalo and things like that. They do it. They have their own, everybody has their own culture. Ukraine, they settled in their own land. And when they are not bothered, they create a paradise in there. For years. For years. And they had woodland people. That's talking historically. When Kiev, then later on, when other people start to moving into them, then they try to create the cities, because otherwise the farmer couldn't protect themselves. But once they start to go into this king's business and so on, then one goes in and one ruler turns around and he put his shield on front at one end of the country and then shield on another piece of wood and say, this is my territory. And so now everybody, villagers, comes into the city and they have a different herds that attacks Ukraine way early. They attack them. They take the farms away. The Turks used to attack. They had the Muslims used to attack from the other end. In the 12th century, they actually they called the Boti. They in 12th century they destroy Ukraine completely. Russia signed treaty with them. They give up. They didn't fight them. That's why Russia wasn't destroyed. Kiev was burned out completely by the Khan, we call it Tatar, a Mongolian tribe, you know. And so but those villages, you see, that's great. It's a little bit different. Like they created permanently, but on every time that's unfortunately, Ukraine was constantly, everybody, Hungarians attack, Poland's attack, Russia attack, Germany attack, Turks attack. History-wise, all the time. But and you go from one power to another. What do you call?
All right. So we'll do a quick version of me asking more about the culture.
Okay.
And I might stop you short. We'll do it kind of like if you've ever been to like judge in court. They ask a question and then
Yeah.
you know, like we'll do it just a quicker version.
Yeah.
The first thing I'll ask about poetry and the importance of poetry on the Ukrainian culture. And then I might ask about some songs, Ukrainian songs. We don't need to hear, you know, Stalin or anything.
Yeah.
So we'll do those two first. Then
Okay.
we're gonna see how much memory is on here.
Yeah. I even can play harmonica Ukrainian.
Yes, I would like.
got it.
Yes, I would like that a lot. I would like to make sure that we have enough
Okay.
battery so I could record you
Okay.
singing and you know. But for this, the poem, I just want you to share why it's important to Ukrainian culture. Primarily, from my reading, it sounded as if poetry is a little bit like bread in the way that
That's right.
it brings you back to a feeling of strength
Yeah.
and a memory of paradise, that even with everything that has happened or that was happening at the time, you go back to the poetry and it gives you that strength.
You know, the Taras Shevchenko, he saved the Ukraine really. He's all these years. He was a little slave boy, and actually the Russian bought him from slavery. He published painted a picture to sell to some rich guy, and put him slavery, sent him to school, and he became a real patriot for Ukraine.
Yeah. 1 second.
Oh, they had other poems, you know, lots of Ukrainian, but my Shevchenko was in my. I'm not very literary, so that I can read lots of Ukrainian, poetries of different poets. We do have lots of talented people. My sister were in more to it than I was. But on Shevchenko, I beat them all.
So what is the importance of poetry in the Ukraine culture and to a Ukrainian citizen?
The poetry, Ukrainian poetry, plays very important role. Number one, some of the good poems, for example, there's a name, Kotlarevsky, Ukrainian poem, very famous. So he got famous for writing in Ukrainian language, famous story, Eneida. And you know the Eneida story, that's Italian, right? Who wrote the Eneida, you know that poet. And he translated it from Italian to Ukrainian, called Eneida. That was, he glorified because he's, in the poetry, he's saved, because no matter how much Ukrainian language was tried to be suppressed, yet if you teach somebody Ukrainian poem, and it makes good sense, sort of, it stays in the heart of people, and that stuff you don't erase. That's what the poem is. Of course, it have to have a good poems. The Eneida, there's other many Ukrainian, but Taras Shevchenko, in my mind, great, most important, because he wrote it especially against Russia, against the Poles when they were massacring Ukraine, against the Turk, okay. And he created lots of he wrote stories actually in the poems. Like he wrote a poem, Catherine, how she fell in love with the Moscowitz and soldier, but then she got pregnant with him. Her family rejected her, and she turns around, and she starts going into the world looking for that Russian, trying to catch up with him all over from town to town. Meanwhile, she got so depressed, so she had already son, a bastard, bastard son, beautiful son. And she was going, he was a little boy then, but she couldn't bear all of this, she couldn't find her lover, so she drowned and left the son behind. And it's all in poem, like long. Finally, the son joined was that a crippled man that played guitar, they call it a bandurist, that sits in the corner and asks for people for chores, but he played and Ukraine has many of those people that they're blind sometimes, but they are disabled, and they played the Ukrainian instrument called bandura, and they played it. So many strings, just like a guitar, but it's not a guitar, it's a big round, and they played. And they go from town to town like this, sitting along the roads, and this little boy joined him, and as he goes along one time, and he sees this a big carreta, they call it, a horse wagon, with a rich, healthy man sitting in there, with a beautiful wife and children, and just glorious. And he passes this little boy, and so happened when they glanced at, and this boy and the father look exactly the same. And that's immediately shows in the poem that is his father passing by, glorified with his life. And his little boy, a little bastard, stood with that and just saw the wind and dust flying behind the wagon. And that's the story ended. It's just things like that when he writes in the poem, it just glorifies. Okay. Or then he write a song, that was a poem that I was telling you, the Katerina. And then they call it Roar and Cries the River Dnieper. It shows how from River Dnieper the mermaids are coming out. And they are singing the song. Oh, oh, solo benedictus, oh, oh, straw spirit. My mother bore me before I got Christians. And she killed me, she drowned me because I was Christian, things like that. And they go in and they're looking, they're coming out every night to join themselves, then they go back into the river Dnieper. It's just a, and then they say, oh, but somebody's walking in the woods. It's a girl, one poor girl, she's looking for her boyfriend. He's supposed to return, but he doesn't come. And they turning around, oh, and they wanted to tickle her to death so she can join them, okay? But so meanwhile, while she killed herself, the girl, because she couldn't find the boy. Meanwhile, the boyfriend is looking for her. And he goes in and he hit the tree with his head and killed himself. And he had a ring from the girlfriend. And those, they call it rusalki, those mermaids found him dead also. Then villagers found the boy and so on, and found the girl, and they buried them without knowing it exactly what, and things like that. That's all in poem. But while parts of the song, poems, that certain extracted into the song, and then they call it Ревета сто днів широкий, сердитий вітер повива, додолу верби гне високі, горами хвилю підійма. And faint moon in the sky, here and there looks from the sky. Now, like the boat in blue ocean is jumps up and down and down. And so the rooster did not crow yet, and nothing was so quiet there. No sound was coming from the woods, and only owl howl here and there. Things like that. It's a beautiful song, So, and then he had the other one.
Let's go back to bullet point. Why is poetry important in Ukrainian culture? You started with saying that it's usually the content. It has to be like a good poem first,
Yes.
and then it's remembered to the heart. But if there was some kind of quick bullet of like why is poetry important in terms of when there's crisis, when there's something that happens? Why is
Ukrainians are so good at it? It's not only poetry, but even they immediately they come up villages with this is poetry too. It's just like about Stalin. When they got fed up with the Stalin, okay? So all over the children. Ой, спасибі тобі, Сталін, за щасливе життя на 9. Oh, thankful you, Stalin, for a happy, happy life. You put yokes on our necks and says, live better. If I only once I could saw the Stalin, I would hit him in the face with my fist and tell him, oh, Joseph Stalin, please come to see us how we live. Barn is empty, house is empty, and the horse is with one eye, something like that. That's part of the poem. The people immediately, they create songs immediately. If something unfortunate happened, that's as soon as Germans came over, Bolsheviks come over, Stalin against, they come up poetry, very strong poetry, and songs, with the songs.
Is there a song that you'd like to play on the harmonica?
Sure. This is also from Taras Shevchenko, about the single girl that she's waiting for beloved, but he never come back. And she said, oh God, please forgive her. So people left from here, from single one. It's such her, they call it such fate of her. Such fate of her. Such fate of her. Oh God, please forgive her. О Боже мій милий, за що ти караєш її молоду? За те, що так щиро вона полюбила козацькі очі, прости сироту. Ні батька, ні неньки у білому світі, одна, як та пташка в далекім краю, пошли ж ти їй долю, вона молоденька, бо люди чужі її засміють. That's it.
Could you share again, what is the name of that?
The name of the song is Така її доля, Such Fate of Her. Така її доля. О Боже, oh God, such a fate of her. Така її доля. О Боже, oh God, my beloved. Why are you punishing her? Because she fell in love with a Cossack soldier?
Okay. I'm gonna pause this for a second.
That's a beautiful song.
Yeah. We'll spend another day to really dive in. But the very last, I'm gonna record. I think I need to switch the battery again. I wanna maybe if you're standing up, I want you to explain why what you're wearing is important, right? Some
Okay.
people don't know that it's
Yes.
Ukraine. So we'll do that, and then maybe if there's a like little dance or movement,
Okay.
we'll do a lot more of this.
Well, with my legs, I cannot. I used to do hopak and all
Oh
that.
no, just something. You know. I think what
I used to call Arkan, you know, nom, 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 nom. And I led the Arkan. They selected me as a leader with like a 6 boys,
Yeah.
which all together line up.
Let me see if I could record this. Let me. Before we do that, I just thought of. So, oh, I can't even do it. Battery's dead. I want to ask you, in general, why the art's important to Ukrainians when something happens. So, if you think of something quick, like for us, I actually exactly what you said, like already inside the DNA, the Ukrainians like to use poetry or song or rhymes through hardship, like if someone's oppressing them or in love and remembering stories and stuff. That's part of the tradition. But maybe in general, if like what does the arts mean to Ukrainians? I know it's a very vague question, but
You see, so happened in Germany, while I was in Germany, in a camp, DP camp, I was always curious. Wherever there is a shop, I was trying to learn in that shop something. The guys were there vulcanizing tires. I go to look how they vulcanize the tires, and I watch whole process. I was so curious. Then whatever different places I go, I see one time a sculptor. I see wherever they make a moonshine in the cellar. I see people. I see how they make a moonshine. And then I joined one time the sculptor. His name was Dunay Mukhin, very famous sculptor for Soviet Union. After the war, they gave him an order to build the statues all over the Germany and all wherever Russian soldiers died. He was making monuments. He was an artist and sculptor, and his wife was artist, painter too. So I was watching through the window in Germany one time. It's his shop. Next thing I go around, I went into the shop and watched him through the door working. Next thing I know, I already was helping him. So several years, I was helping him working in his artistic endeavor, building out of bronze horses. And his wife was a beautiful painter. Then they also making some money for the camp for Ukrainian lady. They were making for the Christmas different decoration out of. She makes a model of a bear or something like that, and they make it out of paper wet. They made a form and they created dolls out of wet paper that they glue it together and they make a form and then paint them and sell them like different statues. So he was very famous, and he went up into the United States. We were traveling together with him on the way in Germany, Bremenhaven, when he came to the United States. So he was. I learned lots of art from him. And he took me to Hamburg in Germany for visit museums. He was very interesting in that. And all of the Picasso's pictures in there, and he was showing me all things. Then I see one time as Hamburg was bombed in Germany during the tremendous, whole city is destroyed, but the center where all of the German culture, all of the museums and everything, Allies didn't touch it. The Germans plead for it, and Allies didn't bomb that. So I went through that, through those museums, and I saw with him. That was something memorable. And I see one time he goes in front of the lion's sculpture, lion, and he rubs the leg of a lion, and they see all shiny. I said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "Well, you see, there is a spot on the sculptures. Everybody rubs same spot every time, and the shinier it is, the more greatness the artist is." And then I learned something from him, and that's part of the art.
So you would, you'd say that the art has something more divine, maybe?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
See, I did not know that. I see that, you see, you didn't even think, but every time I see a statue someplace, and I see, I see a guy with a cane, and I see the cane is, just tip of the cane is also shiny. Well, why is it shiny? Because a good artist know, and they rub it, so that they said, "I touched it, and I approve that." And that's the way, especially artists, and people that don't know, they just ignore it, okay? But especially artists that don't understand the art, they rub that spot. When I go, I know what it is. If I go, I see a good art, and I like it, I rub it. And I don't know if everybody knows that.
So poetry, songs, art, theater, it's all really important to the Ukrainians because it's that expression.
It is. It is. It's your part, especially your own version of it. Okay. Yes. Like Italians, for example. Italians have very great in art and songs. It's it's in your heart, and you are relaying. You're especially historical. There's some. There's all kind of art you can take. But some of the art I really don't approve those crazy things. I don't. Somehow I'm more. To me, it's more like from Taras Shevchenko stories and from somehow that has a feeling in it. But to go blowing up some, all of this, I just don't approve that. Unfortunately.
So the poetry and music sustains some sort of emotion and some sort of history so that we remember.
Yes. But as far as going, even some of the Ukrainian, they're changing like at a Western style, and I really don't go for it. I go for patriotic cowboy songs, and I don't know. But used to be like in the 50s, Americans had beautiful songs, especially from the movies, And I tell you one thing, Hollywood is something else in this world, Of course, there's lots of politics in there too. But Hollywood created many, especially like songs, Oklahoma, or different movies that they made, especially like Dr. Zhivago song. Beautiful. Now, Laura, my love. What a melody. Now, here the credit to those people that invented that melody, or they write the words for it. That is something unusual. I couldn't match that. Even I tried a little bit.
So maybe would you like to stand up, and then I'll ask you what you're wearing,
Mm-hmm.
and okay, yeah, we'll make sure you've been working for a long time. You want some water?
No, I'm fine.
Nothing. Okay. So I'll just ask. Let me get this. Yeah. So what is this that you're wearing?
I'm wearing, it's a Ukrainian embroidered shirt. It's very common to all of the villagers in the whole Ukraine. This is a typical one. Some of them has much more decorated, some of them completely. It takes many, many hours, patience. And yet some of those Ukrainian women and some people culture, they do that by hand. Of course, lots of stuff is on market that they can produce also, with automatic machines and produce. But this is a typical culture of Ukrainian people. They're proud of their heritage. And if you compare with anybody in the world, it's really beautiful. And it's an honor to be a Ukrainian and wearing Ukrainian shirt.
Any dance or movement you want to show? Just for
Well, with my metal hips, I say the famous dance with the 6 people, and I was leading. They call it arkan,
yeah.
and the music goes like this. And I was leading the group of 6. We were actually dancing for British soldiers on a concert, and the 6 people all in a row and thinking, and music goes this way. Na 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 and so on.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Oh.
That's I cannot do that anymore, but we used to go in all kinds,
Yeah.
It's called arkan.
Arkan.
Yeah.
It's amazing the arts, and the I guess the expression in Ukraine, that has not died
Yeah.
over
It's through the years,
300
people.
years of
That's
slavery.
why even right now, this Ukrainian woman, they're fighting, and right now I give the credit for the people right now that are really standing up for it, And unfortunately, but we had no chance against the Russians at the time. We had no chance, even you know what I mean. Or even right now, you see how people flee. 7 million people already flee Ukraine, but 7 million. Now, it does tell you something to people how evil this empire is. And you know that Putin, he is not only wants to so that he can control. He doesn't want to recognize Ukraine. This is a Russia. He's a stupid idiot because he does not know history. He absolutely does not know history because he is brainwashed himself, with the communism ideology. And those are people, I tell you the truth, they are sick in their head. That's what it is, really. Sicko. And yet they're running such a great country. Now, the world, I have to condemn that. And it is, I'm so proud of all of the world that are really taking the side. And those people that don't, well, like in Ukrainian, we had also, like Taras Shevchenko said, and if I meet those people, I call them perevertny. Perevertny is a turncoats. And whenever I meet a turncoats, I have very politely, I tell him Ukrainian Taras Shevchenko poem. Rozrita Mohila, undug grave, where it does tell you, meanwhile, let the turncoats grow up and help the Moscowitz glorify himself. And that's my bottom line. Now, people, wake up. Because sooner or later, those idiots, they can come in and knock on your door. But then it'll be too late. And then the end of his poem, that Rozrita Mohila, he said, right near the end of the poem is that it'll come time when sun will covered with a cloud and you will repent with your sons. That's the end of the story he wrote.
Walter, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I think that concludes for today's session.
Okay, now the word repent, what true meaning of repent?
You're asking?
Yeah, what you interpret the word?
I interpret it as getting forgiveness for something that you have done from someone else.
That's what.
Okay. Yeah. Getting forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very beautiful. I know I put you through the ringer.
No problem at all. I'm very glad. Absolutely, there's no problem for me.
Yeah.
I just, with all honesty, I'm happy to relay this to you. Whoever is